James Bond.
Bond.
James.
Bond, what do you think you're doing?
Keeping the British hand up, sir.
Welcome to James Bond Radio. News, reviews, and discussion of all things 007.
Pussy.
As you can see, I have no problem with female authority.
Oh, pipe down, 007.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Whatever time of day or night you listen to this, this is James Bond Radio and it's podcast number 97. With me is my good pal, Mr. Tom Sears. How you doing, Tom? You all right?
I'm doing very well, mate. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm not too bad. You're looking... Are you a little tired at the moment? What's up? Anything wrong? Or
Well, no, I'm on my travels at the minute. With me and my good lady, we're doing some travels, and I'm currently back in the land of the Golden Gun. And just to record this podcast, I thought, because of the time difference, I had to kind of make something happen. So it's currently 5:30 in the morning. I would like some kudos, please, for getting up early just to do JBR.
You're getting some kudos. 5:30 in the morning. If I had like a football rattle, it would be going at like 10 to the dozen right
There
now.
we go. It could also be the fact that I'm jet lagged and 5:30 in the morning feels like 2 in the afternoon, and I was already up anyway. But I won't mention that bit.
That's all right. Oh, cool. So, have you got plans to visit James Bond Island again while you're sort of down there, or not for a while?
We're definitely. You've got yourself a good woman when she says, "I know you've already been, but can we visit James Bond Island while we're here?" So I was like, "Yes, definitely."
Nice.
So we'll definitely make a pilgrimage back at some point. But yeah, I've been doing some Bond location scouting lately. Actually, just before we left, we had a little 3-day trip to Vegas. And because neither of us had ever been before, and obviously did some Diamonds Are Forever location scouting. So I've got some really cool footage on my phone, which I haven't edited together yet, but of some killer Diamonds Are Forever locations. So I'm going to be putting that up soon on the old YouTube channel. So yeah, I've been busy.
Nice. I like it. Is there any location you visited which was like you caught your breath, or you were like, oh my god, this is so cool?
There is one, yes. Now I tell you
Really?
what, the thing about Vegas is funny though, because it's the end of town where all the Diamonds Are Forever stuff happened is a little bit shoddy these days. Like it's kind of like you can see it's like Vegas of years gone by, where it needs a coat of paint and a good overhaul kind of thing. Like the Circus Casino, for example, is one of them, and all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting to see that. But man, like when I went into Circus and looked up and saw, like, I'm pretty sure it's exactly the same net that the acrobats would have used in the film. Like the place doesn't look like it's been touched since the 70s, and all that kind of stuff. So I couldn't find a machine where you shoot water into the mouths of things.
I was just about to
I was
ask you
looking for
that as
I couldn't
well.
find it anyway. Sadly, that's long gone. But
What about the blackjack table? Did you give that?
well,
a go?
it could have been from my investigations. Like loads of things were filmed in different places. So like Plenty O'Toole's scene where he meets her was I believe at a casino called the Riviera, which has been shut down. It's like, I think the building's still there. I was stood outside of it, but it's like empty and abandoned and stuff. Like that end of town, Circus and the White House and all those places are one end of the Vegas Strip. And they're all pretty sort of big, and you wouldn't want to hang out there too often. And the Riviera was in the middle, and like I say, that was all shut down. So I did the best I could with what I had, but it was cool. We did. Yeah. I tell you what, man, what was cool is I've never really gambled before or anything like that. So we thought, when in Rome, and we went down to the blackjack table because it was one of the only card games that we both knew. And thought, right, let's just, put $60 down and see what happens. So we went up to the first dude who was on his own and said, we're kind of beginners, blah, blah, blah. Sat down, and my ultimate Bond dreams came true in the sense that I won 8 rounds of blackjack in a row and ended up $100 up. And
That's amazing.
Yeah, which was pretty cool. And then obviously we went to another table and I lost it all immediately. But yeah, it was fun, man. I felt like Bond for a minute there.
Were you dressed up to the nines? Or?
I had an open neck shirt on. I wish I had my Spectre Premier outfit, man, but that's in storage in the UK. I would have rocked that good, and if I'd have had that, but sadly not. Yeah.
And were there any instances of walking into a gorilla?
Do you know what? I'm not going to say anything. There might be a little something in the video that you might enjoy.
This is good. This is exciting stuff. I like it. And if it's you dressed up in a gorilla suit like Roger and Octopussy, that doesn't count.
There you go.
Right?
I'm not saying a word, mate. I'm not saying a word.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Cool. So what have you been up to? You've been doing your On Her Majesty's Secret Service skiing trips again.
Yeah, it's been good. I went on a couple, but most recently I went to France, and we were staying in this pimping chalet. Pretty much a chalet Bond might stay, except there was quite a few of us there, and we had a nice outdoor hot tub, so we could, take in the view with a glass of bubbly and stuff like that. It was all rather nice and neat. But
hold on a minute. I'm just going to stop you there, there. If this is hot tub business, now were you surrounded just by a bunch of dudes in a hot tub, or were there any ladies present?
For the majority, yes, but not the whole time. that kind of diffuses the fantasy that I'm trying to put out there. But no. For the majority of the time, yeah, but they're not all the time. It was good. It was good. The view was nice and all that sort of stuff. So really nice pad, and the snow was decent. Particularly towards the end, the last couple of days we just had non-stop powder, which is just like superb. And I obviously had a bit of the Bond going in my head. I didn't actually bring sort of music, which is a shame, really. Because I think I should just do one day where I just log everyone off. I say, right, I'm going to see you at the end of the day. I'm just going to snowboard and listen to Bond all day, and I'll see you then. And I didn't do that this time, so I'm going to have to do that next time.
You need to get your blue outfit on, your white skiing goggles, and your Majesty's soundtracks in the. Though I suppose to be completely authentic, you would have to get the Beach Boys, wouldn't you, with California Girls playing in your ears if you're snowboarding rather than skiing.
That is true. Well, I'd have to mix it up. I'd do skiing in a blue suit, skiing in a yellow suit, and then snowboard with California.
Do you know what, man? I've never been skiing, and it's on my to-do list for sure. But I would be hard pushed to decide whether I would go with the blue ski suit or the banana yellow one with the red backpack, because I would be equally happy in both of those, man. I would love them both so much.
Well, whatever one you end up choosing, make sure you get some photos, because that would be awesome.
Will do. Be well, there's no snow here in Thailand at the moment, so not much luck.
No? Oh, that's strange. Yeah. There was one quite dodgy thing, actually. The run that we were doing on the last day, a brilliant sort of run. Literally, the day that we were going back, we found out it had avalanched, and a couple of people were buried. They were rescued in the end, but 3 people got buried, and it was a run which we were hitting literally all day. We'd hit that run, go up the lift, hit that run, and the very next day it avalanched. So that would have been a Majesty's-esque thing, but luckily, obviously, we weren't there. And fortunately, no one actually died in the end, but a couple of people had a close call, which is a bit scary, really. A little bit hairy.
Absolutely, good stuff. Well,
might say.
We've both had our travels on over the last couple of weeks, and it's all good. It's all good fun.
Yeah. There's also been I just don't know if you've had a chance to watch it yet, and I know I mentioned this before, but have you seen any of The Night Manager yet? No,
I've seen some headlines of old Hiddleston going, I'd like to be James Bond, please, and everybody going, he could be the next James Bond. What do you reckon? I haven't watched any of it yet, so what do you think?
The show itself's awesome. It gets better and better with each episode. I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but it's got quite a License to Kill feel. He kind of infiltrates the sort of bad guy who's played by Hugh Laurie, and he's so good at it. And he's kind of like the Sanchez character, and then he kind of gets his loyalty, and then there's a guy who I don't want to tell you everything, but it's got that sort of License to Kill feel, but it's armaments instead of like drugs. But it gets better and better. In terms of the whole him being Bond, I'm still not 100% on that. I mean, I've got my person I want to be, but I don't think he'd do it. But he's still a really good actor. It's just, if he did it, I still think he'd do a good job, but I don't think he's quite got that special
I think something. What happens is somebody does something remotely sort of action movie based, and if they're Spy-ish. English with brown hair, then Bond gets thrown around. Do you know what I mean? I think that's what it comes to. I feel like Tom Hiddleston's a bit on the weedy side to play Bond. Do you know what I mean? He's a bit too skinny. And I don't know. I don't like, in the sense that I feel like to play Bond, you've got to have that ladies' man vibe, and I do not get a ladies' man vibe from Tom Hiddleston at all. But I must say, I've seen in the old comments on the Facebooks that there are some steadfast Hiddleston supporters for Bond, so they are out there. But I don't know, not for me, I don't think.
No. Well, nevertheless, it's worth a watch just to see what you think if you get a chance, because it'll be cool to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go.
Splendid. So I tell you what, there's a couple of things actually, which is the first sort of, when you go through the cycle of a Bond film, and the Bond film's just finished, it's just come out on Blu-ray, and that's like the end of that cycle, and it's like, right, oh no, we've got a long way until the next one. But then you get the first little niblet of news come out for the next film, which is what we've had, haven't we? I wouldn't even call it news. I would say it's a little niblet of like a rumor, I suppose, about the next one, which is all very exciting. Which is the fact that Cape Town is apparently being talked about as a potential location. So what do you think about that?
Well, last time we heard Dubrovnik and Czech Republic, which obviously you went to and said looked amazing. Yeah. Cape Town, prior to Spectre, we were basically saying Rome. Why have they never been to Rome? That's like classic Bond territory. Yeah. And although Cape Town's probably not quite to that level, it's definitely on that same sort of line, isn't it?
It certainly
is. It's a famous place. It's got the tabletop mountain. Everyone has heard of it. Visually, it'd be stunning. And it, obviously, it's got a cable car, echoes of Moonraker and stuff like that. Whether they'd use it or not, I don't know. But straight away, as soon as you hear Cape Town, you think, yes, that could definitely be in a Bond film. Obviously, it's early days. We don't know if it will be or not, but that's definitely a location that I'd like to see Bond go to one day.
Yeah, man. It definitely, I suppose there's that thing, isn't there, like with Bond locations, to make it feel like a Bond location, it's got to have like a lot of history to it. Somewhere like Rome is perfect, Paris, London, all those kind of classic cities. And I suppose on the other hand, you've got to have, like, if it's a place where super wealthy people hang out, then chances are it's going to be, exactly. Do you know what I mean? Then it's somewhere that Bond's going to hang out. So I think, and obviously Cape Town got a mention in Spectre as well, didn't it? So there's that whole sort of link in
maybe
there.
That's,
or maybe that ties into the story, Chris. We don't. Maybe. Ooh.
Are we starting? We can't call it speculation now. What are we going to call it?
We'll have to wait until
Risicolation.
It's Bond 25 elation, I guess. But
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, there you go. So there's that, and also talking about the Dubrovnik thing, they're actually filming Star Wars Episode 8 in Dubrovnik right now, which is pretty cool. So it's definitely on the map in terms of movie making. Obviously, Game of Thrones was made there as well. So lovely stuff. So I guess we have to acknowledge the sad news, which we've lost two legendary Bond people over the last couple of weeks, which is Sir Ken Adam, obviously, and Sir George Martin as well. Two absolute legends, and they've gone, which is really sad, isn't it?
It is sad. And a lot of people say this, but the word legend, it does get overly used, although I'd call you a legend, and you are a bit of a legend.
Thanks, man.
Not everyone in the world might think that, whereas with these two, they are bona fide legends, really, and particularly, obviously, they've got stuff outside of Bond, but what they both contribute to Bond. I mean, George Martin, I think the score for Live and Let Die, for me, and I know you love it as well, it's right up there. I'd probably put it in my top 3. I love that soundtrack. I think it's so different, so, it's just great. And obviously the theme song is great as well. I don't think everyone is quite, some people love it, some people think it's all right, some people aren't sure. But I think it's amazing. But the contribution that Ken Adam made is, it's...
Yeah, that's some next level shit, isn't it?
Big. Yeah. It's almost unspeakable. You think about the little set in Dr. No, obviously the sort of spider room set with Professor Dent with the globe creating the web, and even Dr. No's sort of headquarters, that little where he's in this sort of jail cell with the electric fence and the angled roof, just the little things. And then into the massive things, he could just do it all. And I mean, that was one person that I would have loved if you and I had ever got a chance.
Do you know what he was?
How cool would that have been?
Super high on our hit list, wasn't he? To interview, and it's such a shame that we never managed to make it happen in time. But yeah, man, I mean that there's I would say, with all the different people that work on Bond movies over the years, there are a small group who make an impact as massive as that dude. John Barry would be another perfect example of like it's in the DNA of what the movie Bond is, and like you think of some of those sets, they're just incredible. And like we said when we reviewed Never Say Never Again ages ago, and you look at the Spectre room in Never Say Never Again, and you compare it to the one in Thunderball, and it's just like there's no comparison. Like it's just a whole different ball game. And it's like that thing, the feel of Never Say Never Again. It's like, oh man, it would have been so much better if you'd have had a John Barry score in there. It would have been so much better if you'd have had Ken Adam doing the set design. And it's like, when you take those two people away, essentially you've got the same characters. I know there's different actors in there for M and all that kind of stuff, which feels a bit weird, but you've got the same setup. You've got Connery as Bond, and having those two ingredients missing, you miss it so much. And I think it's just, oh man, it's such a shame. It would have been so cool to sit down, 'cause as well with that dude's life in terms of being a fighter pilot during World War II and all that kind of stuff.
Amazing,
the stories that dude must have had would have been incredible. So it's such a shame to lose him. But again, at the same time, a bloody good innings as well, well into his 90s.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. That's, you wouldn't sort of ask for more, I guess. He's had a quality life, and he's another one that you hear where anyone that's ever interviewed him or met him, or any documentaries or interviews you see, no one has ever had a bad word to say about him.
Yeah.
Everything has always been, how nice he is and how sort of, obviously talented he is and stuff like that. And that's always nice to hear, because you don't like to hear stories about people that maybe get above their station, but that never ever comes across with Ken Adam.
Absolutely.
Sad time. Do you know what I actually did? I mean, I reckon a lot of Bond fans did this anyway, but I've got the Ken Adam book, Designing the Bond Movies or whatever it's called. It's like quite a hefty book, and it covers sort of other films that he's worked on. Obviously, The War Room, which is probably one of his most famous. But I literally just looked at all the Bonds that night after he passed away, and just like I can just get lost within a picture, literally just looking at it. Like if you're looking at his sketch of You Only Live Twice, Volcano Base, and looking at all the little detail, I can literally just like stare at that thing for ages, going, man, that's just so good. But I mean, there we are. It's a shame, but obviously both absolute legends and huge contributors to the Bond series, which
absolutely
is awesome.
And do you know what? Going back to George Martin for a minute, I didn't actually know this, but he produced Goldfinger for Shirley Bassey, which is pretty cool as well. So even I beforehand, I thought it was just the Live and Let Die contribution, but it was probably the all-time classic Bond song as well he produced. So that's pretty good, isn't it?
It's impressive stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good on it.
But there we go. Yeah. So before we get cracking with the listener takeover reviews and all that kind of stuff, we have some up-to-the-minute news, which is that Spectre won, I think it was just last night in London, won 2 awards at the Empire Film Awards in London, which was Best British Film and Best Thriller. So what do you think about that?
I'm chuffed, really. Obviously, we love it when Bond does well, but Best British Film, Best Thriller... I mean, what other films would compare to that? I think
none.
I don't know.
None, Chris.
None. Well, obviously none. Yeah. Obviously none. So, and the good thing as well, it's voted by. It's the Empire Awards, isn't it? So it's the Empire magazine. So it's voted by readers of Empire magazine. Basically, people like you and I, fans that listen and like it and everything. So that's cool. It's cool to hear. I to be honest, I'm not sure what the competition was, but I bet Mendes was chuffed.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of that, we actually have some video or audio, if you're listening, of Sam's acceptance speech, and there's a couple of interesting nuggets in there. So I thought, let's play it on JBR, and then we'll have a little chat about it afterwards. So let's go and listen to Sam Mendes' acceptance speech right now.
Empire, thank you very, very much. Thank you, the readers of Empire, including my son. You'll be very, very excited we got this. You've been there from the beginning. The first interview I gave about Skyfall was to Empire, and I was the guest editor, and it was one of the high spots of this whole process for Spectre, and it seems fitting that this would be the last of a big five-year adventure, which I've loved every second of. But as Callum said, thank you to everyone earlier, I'm going to tell you a funny story about the mad people who the mad and dedicated people who make these movies, of which there are thousands, most of whom are British. But the person I'm going to tell you about is French. Our French costume designer, Gianni. Just to give you an idea, we were shooting Skyfall down in the underground, Charing Cross Underground. It was around about Christmas, and it was Javier Bardem's first day, and everyone was a bit tense and a bit excited because he was there. He was dressed as a policeman, so he looked a bit stupid. So we were trying to pretend that he looked cool, and the background, the extras who were coming onto had to be on the tube train with him, were arriving to a holding suite just upstairs outside Charing Cross Station, where they were having a Christmas party in the hotel, and the people arriving for the party, Gianni assumed were coming to be extras in the movie. So they arrived to the party to be met by a tiny, mad French woman saying to them, "Would you wear this on a fucking tube? Why are you wearing this stupid suit?" And like all good English people, they did exactly what they were told, and they all lined up in the extras tent. And one by one, they took off their smart suits, and they put on some really shitty parkas. And about halfway through, they thought, actually, this can't be right. They thought it was some weird practical joke, but I'm sure half of them ended up in the movie. But, it just shows you that it's the willpower of so many people that make these things happen. They just force it to. They demand that it happens. And without that willpower of Barbara Broccoli, Michael Wilson, and everyone who works on these movies, they just wouldn't happen. So thank you very, very much on behalf of all of those people to Empire, and have a nice night. Thank you.
So, what do you think about that then, Chris? Now, the first thing that stuck in my mind there was him saying that it's a fitting end to a 5-year adventure, which obviously implies that he considers his Bond time done. Now, do you think that's a bit of smoke and mirrors? Do you think he's playing up for a bit of extra wages next time round and doing the old Roger Moore thing, or what?
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? I mean... Does everyone have their price? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's... What do you think? I don't know. I think... Personally, I think he would probably be happy to not do another Bond. But if Daniel was staying on, and if he was like, a little bit pushy, apparently he was with SPECTRE, but, a little bit more pushy, and Barbara and Michael were a little bit more open with their wallets, even more so.
Yeah.
That's got to, give it another 12 months or whatever. That it might start to ring some bells. But equally, it would be interesting to see what someone else might bring as well. So I'd be happy either way. If he did stay on for Bond 25, brilliant. And if someone else came aboard, brilliant. What about you?
I think it's one of those things where if you ask somebody at the right time, you can make it happen. For example, that famous Daniel's slashing the wrist comment. He just finished the movie. He was knackered. The last thing he wanted to do is anything more related to Bond, and he just wanted to have a rest. So I feel like give Mendes a little bit of time off. Let him go and do a play somewhere, Chris. He likes to do that. Go and do a play, Mendes. And then get that out of your system, and then you can come back, and then you can do some bondage. I think that's probably the game that they're going to play because, let's face it, Skyfall, most successful Bond film ever, SPECTRE, the second most successful Bond film ever. So what does that tell you? It's like there's a magic recipe there with Sam Mendes at the helm. So I think knowing how tenacious Barbara must be to sort of keep the whole ship afloat, I feel like she's gonna do a Godfather type sort of offer he can't refuse and bring him back for one more because they are Italians after all, Chris.
Well, that's it, and that is a very good point. Yeah, she is the godmother, Barbara Broccoli. Yeah. I think I can picture that now. Her behind the desk, with a whiskey and what have you. But it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But I think like you said, give it a few months, and we might know a bit more. But
absolutely,
either which way, it'll be quite cool.
Good stuff. So obviously today we're doing the listener takeover 90-second reviews. We did our first one for SPECTRE, obviously, and it was such a raging success. We thought we'd bring it back for all of our film reviews. So we've had a good few of them come in. I think we hit 34 or 35 reviews. I think came in this time, which is all very good. So before we get to that, we're going to do a little bit of Bond trivia, aren't we, Chris?
We are indeed. Now I'm going to go first.
Ooh, he's claimed it.
And I have. I've claimed it. And I think you're going to know the answer straight away. And if you were listening in our first half, in part 1 of our For Your Eyes Only review, you'd probably know the answer too.
Ooh.
But my question to you, Mr. Tom Sears, is what message does Luigi Ferrara leave for Bond in his hotel ensuite bathroom?
Oh, that's a good one. If my memory served me better, I would know that because I remember noting that down when I watched the film. But I can't remember off the top of my head.
You've got jet lag to fall back on.
I do. Excuse. That is a good excuse. I'm going to claim it. I'm going to use it. Good stuff. All right. Well, I've got a question for you this week, Chris. Are you ready for it? Have you prepared yourself?
I am. Well, I don't know if I'm prepared, but yeah, go for it.
All right.
Hit me with it.
My question of the day, Christopher Wright, is...
Yes.
How many languages does James Bond speak?
Ooh. Is this relating to For Your Eyes Only or just in general?
Just in general.
Okay. Is this novel Bond or filmic Bond?
Could be either. Whatever you want to do.
All right. Thanks, man. I'll give it a go. All right, cool.
Lovely
Sounds
stuff.
Good. Tough question.
Absolutely. Righty-ho then. So, should we get cracking with the 90-second reviews?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this because, like you said, the SPECTRE one was really interesting. It was great to hear everyone's reviews, and I guess with that, everyone had just seen it. It was fresh, so you expected everyone to have their opinion. But what I'm hoping is with For Your Eyes Only. Obviously, when we do the reviews, I've noticed that quite a few of the listeners are saying they've been kind of following us in order, so they've been watching the film as we've been watching it. So quite a lot of people have been revisiting For Your Eyes Only. So it'd be really interesting to see, because overall, I think we both were quite pleasantly pleased with what we saw. Really, in terms of we thought it was a decent film. Obviously, certain parts we thought worked really well, and certain parts we weren't sure about. So it'd be great to hear what everyone else thinks.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool stuff. So, without any further ado, let's get cracking with the listener takeover For Your Eyes Only 90-second reviews.
Hi guys, Keith calling from Melbourne. For Your Eyes Only. Love it. Love it. I reckon it's a really solid Bond film. It was the second Bond film I saw, and it was the reason why I became a fan. It really pulled me in, so it's got a bit of a soft spot for it. I love Roger Moore in this. I reckon it's just about his best performance, brings that harder edge, which is great. The thing I really like about this film is the action. I think the action sequences are fantastic, really solid. I really like the pre-title sequence. I know it's pretty, it gets a bit of stick for being a bit corny, and it is, but the stunt work's phenomenal. Love the car chase with the Peugeots and the Citroen and the score. The ski sequence with the bobsled, that's fantastic. And so is really like the raid on the warehouse with Columbo's men. That's a great sequence. And then, of course, how that ends with Bond kicking the car off the cliff with Locke. That's great. One of the best moments in the series. And Roger just looks like an absolute lad in that bit. It's not perfect, bit of stupid humour. BB Dahl should have just suicided after her first scene. She's terrible. That parrot is outrageous. And that Maggie Thatcher skit at the end, I mean, fuck. The less said about that, the better. But overall, a great film. One of my favourites, top 10, 11 for me. Solo entry, very exciting, I reckon. It's great pace. Anyway, Dan Stevens for Bond.
Hi JBR, this is Matt Robenheimer here, calling in with my 90-second review of For Your Eyes Only. It was actually the last Roger Moore film that I got around to seeing, and at the time it made a little impact on me because it was so much more down-to-earth and grounded than what I was expecting from a Roger Moore film. But as I've got more into the books, I think it's really climbed a lot higher in the rankings. Risiko in particular is one of my favourite Ian Fleming short stories, and also including the Live and Let Die sequence in the film was also a stroke of genius. I think Topol made a great addition to the cast. I loved him in Fiddler on the Roof, and his character of Columbo in this has that Karen Bay quality about him that makes him a really memorable ally. The climax of the film at St. Cyril's is, I think, one of the best sequences in the film, especially when Bond is climbing up the cliffs. The stunt by Rick Sylvester really is terrific. It's not a flashy stunt like some of the earlier James Bond stunts, but it's really impressive. I think overall John Glenn is a really underrated director in the Bond series. He directed every film of the 1980s and did a great job of grounding Bond in a much more realistic style in that whole decade. So overall, I think For Your Eyes Only is a really entertaining film. I rank it number 3 in the Roger Moore films, after The Spy Who Loved Me and Live and Let Die.
Hi, this is Jack Lugo with some thoughts on For Your Eyes Only. It's definitely one of my favorite Roger movies. Spy is, I think, still my favorite of the Roger films, but For Your Eyes Only is definitely up there because of all the Fleming stuff that they incorporate into the film, and obviously, they had to kind of, mold it in a certain way so that it all made sense because they're taking, different sources from the Fleming material and sort of making it into one cohesive story, which I think they did well. I mean, the different aspects that they took from the Fleming short stories and also from the keyholing scene from Live and Let Die. I think that they did a really good job with it. The one weakness of the film, though, I think, is the revenge aspect of it. When with Bond trying to kind of have this sort of moral center for Melina, to sort of prevent her from becoming kind of a cold-blooded killer like him. She had already killed Gonzalez, so it's it's protecting her from killing Cristados doesn't really make sense. But I think the theme of the movie centers around this whole kind of moral thing that it doesn't really deliver on that much, and it doesn't really it's kind of disingenuous. But I think overall it's a great film.
Hey guys, Jeff Silence here with my 90-second review of For Your Eyes Only. Well, I love the film, and I have to admit, I also tend to overlook it whenever I put a Roger film on. Whenever I go with a Roger film, I tend to go with like Live and Let Die or Octopussy. So going back to For Your Eyes Only was actually quite fun. I think it has a lot of charm from the Roger era, but not as campy as like Moonraker. It has a great story. I like how they managed to piece together the short stories from the book, make it a complete story, and still retain a lot of the Fleming elements. Carol Bouquet is awesome and just freaking gorgeous. I admit I had a huge crush on her growing up, and rewatching it, I still do have a crush. I, for one, actually like the Bill Conti score. I don't know why, I just do. I like the part when Bond sees the Citroen for the first time and the music just breaks down and ends with that little wah 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 sound. I don't know. I'm just a sucker for that. The one downside with the film is that still to this day, I cannot think of a reason why Melina would leave that scuba tank at the temple. I just can't think of a reason other than the script told her to, because they just needed it for the keel hauling scene. I don't know, but it's still an awesome film. Definitely underrated. Well, love the podcast, guys. Keep doing the awesome work.
Hi, guys. Jeff Glaive here again from Vancouver, out on the west coast of Station C, Canada, with my 90-second For Your Eyes Only review. To put it simply, this movie is by far and away my favorite of Sir Roger's outings as 007. For me, any Eon movie that presents Bond in a Fleming-esque way goes high on my list, and this film delivers. My only regret is that we didn't see Timmy Boy in this role. He would have been excellent. And the Bond girls? Fantastic. Melina is strong, and I can still remember my 14-year-old self sitting in the theater in 1981 drooling over BB. The movie is also full of homages to one of my favorite World War II movies, The Guns of Navarone. My only nitpick is the bit at the end with Maggie Thatcher. Ridiculous and completely unnecessary, but I do see why it needed to be done. Cheers, and keep up the good work. Bye for now.
Oh, hello, James Bond Radio. This is Adam Slusar from Station C, Canada, here with my 90-second review of For Your Eyes Only. So I guess for starters, saying being a massive fan of Roger Moore's portrayal of James Bond, it's certainly up there with the best of his. For me, it ranks just below Spy Who Loved Me and Live and Let Die as his top two, but it's a terrific film. I really enjoyed listening to your guys' review because it reinforced for me just how impressive a film it is, and just little things that a lot of other people have overlooked. The only kind of complaints I have about it are really more tonal, like the opening and closing, kind of leave a bad taste in one's mouth because they're a little silly and betray the tone of the film, even though it's relatively minor. I'd also say the villains are a little bit undercooked. That being said, however, I otherwise think it's quite good, and I feel like giving it another go very soon. You guys do a really great job with your podcast. I always enjoy tuning in, and thanks once again. So, cheers.
Hello JBR, it's Ralph here. For Your Eyes Only is my least favourite Sir Roger film, because it is a bit too grounded for my taste when it comes to Roger films. And I'm taking into account things like Maggie Thatcher or the fight on ice against the hockey players, which are considered more silly bits of the film. Personally, I'd love to see Timothy Dalton do this one, because I think he could pull it off really well, especially killing Ferrara and the other dark moments, as well as the occasional quip. Don't get me wrong, I love this movie like a family member, as I do with all Bond films. It's just not one of my favourites, because it is so different from the other Roger ones. Having said that, it still has many wonderful scenes, a beautiful, strong Bond girl with a decent backstory, and Blofeld's pussy, which I am a huge fan of, I gotta say. Because, who isn't a fan of Blofeld's pussy? Who isn't?
Hi Tom and Chris, this is Mark Rolfe, calling from Nottingham. First time calling in, long time listener. Absolutely love the podcast and all that you do for us, so much appreciated. For Your Eyes Only is a strange film for me. I've never had a film bounce so much up and down my Bond list. Really didn't like it as an adult when I first watched it. Watched it again a couple of years ago, really enjoyed it. Watched it again last year, wasn't into it, bounced back down my list. But I watched it again last night and I enjoyed it again. So I can't work it out. I think, as you guys put it, something about this film doesn't sit quite right. The things I love about it, I love Roger in this film. I think he absolutely commands the screen. I think he's super cool in this film. I love some of the cinematography. I love the locations. And I think the ski scenes, especially the ski jump scene, is really cool. Don't really like the score. I agree with you. It's not really appropriate in places, but I really like Bill Conti in his other films. Really not a huge fan of Melina, and I've never really felt much chemistry between Roger and Melina, and it never really sat right with me. In fact, I think I might even prefer BB. Did I just say that? Thanks, guys.
Hello, my name's Onling. For Your Eyes Only, I think, features Roger Moore's best performance. It's for people who like to slate Roger Moore, including himself, he was nothing more than eyebrows, should seriously watch this film. He is incredible in the opening sequence, bringing the nuances, showing how heartbroken he is over his wife. The way he talks about digging 2 graves to Milena Havelock. Wonderful stuff. He's writing in the next film, he just himself into a clown costume. Even though I know some people like a lot. As you can tell with John Glenn, are very, very good. You can always rely on John Glenn to deliver great action sequences. It feels very Flemingite in places. It's the 2 short stories seed very well together. Risky and For Your Eyes Only, which again I would disagree that they didn't in Octopussy, but that's just me. Moore is absolutely astounding here. Topol is great. Julian Glover is very, very good, even if he is a bit weedy at points. The music nearly kills the film. I don't like Bill Conti's score. It's too discoic and something that doesn't. But as a debut for John Glenn, very good. Moore's best performance. I would second best in the Moore can have the Spy, who loved me.
This is Julian O'Hare with my review of This was the first Bond film I saw at the age of 12, and I watched it repeatedly during its various outings, Christmas Day, VHS, DVD and Blu-ray, and for a long time it was my favourite Bond. Roger looks good in this. It's surprising how much he seems to age between this and Octopussy. The story is a strong Fleming-esque one with elements of the Cold War, revenge and double-crossing. It has many memorable scenes, which have been detailed in the podcast. When Bond kicks Locke's car off the cliff, it's right up there with the best of the series. So why is this such a divisive film? For example, none of my friends rate it at all, and it's seldom in many top tens. Possibly since it's so down to earth, literally compared to its predecessor. Viewers have become used to jaws, double takes and outlandish scenarios. The lack of gadgets was criticised, and Christatos is an unmemorable villain. The music feels flat, not as awful as GoldenEye, but uninspiring in an LTK and Spectre kind of way. Additionally, it really does feel like a film set up for a new Bond, similar in tone to Daylights or even Casino. Perhaps this was the first time Sir Roger threatened to leave, and the writers did not realise he was bluffing. As a result, it's a slightly strange fit. That said, I will always love this film. It took a massive risk in taking such a drastic change of tone with the series. Had it not been for Your Eyes Only, who knows if we'd still be talking Bond.
Hi, Tom and Chris, and fellow Bond fans. James from James Bond Down Under. You can find us on Instagram. Giving you our quick thoughts on For Your Eyes Only, for which is definitely one of our top 3 Roger Moore outings behind The Spy Who Loved Me and Live and Let Die. It is a favourite and watched many, many times, as I had it recorded onto VHS when I was young. It has some terrific sequences, especially the rock climbing scene at St. Cyril's, and of course the Citroën chase, which is always a favourite. The pre-titles is a fun and humorous one, and then the serious tone of the film really gives it a lot of conviction. Despite a lack of iconic characters, it has a truly great ensemble cast, including Topol and Julian Glover, whom we actually had the pleasure of seeing on the West End a few years ago. And of course, who can forget the brilliant Sir Roger Moore as 007. On a musical side, unfortunately I've never rated Carly Simon's theme song, other than its familiar notes, which are very easy to hum to. But on the other hand, have always been a big fan of Bill Conti's score, especially the track Ski, Shoot and Jump, and the different sound he brought to the film. Anyhow, thanks for the review. Look forward to the next podcast. Thanks for the likes on Facebook, Chris, and the comments on Instagram, Tom. All the best, James.
Hey guys, it's Jack Taylor here from the States. Just calling with my For Your Eyes Only review. I think overall it's a pretty solid entry to the series. Not one of my favorites. It usually ranks, in the bottom 5 for me. But that doesn't mean it's a bad film at all. I enjoy it quite a bit. I think there are a lot of impressive sequences. The pre-title sequence is definitely one of the best of the franchise. It's great seeing Roger Moore put in that situation, hanging on for dear life. We don't really see that from Sir Roger, I feel like. But overall, I think For Your Eyes Only is lacking any kind of iconic sequences, characters, anything like that. You have Christados, you have Locke. They're all pretty bland. They're all pretty vanilla for villains. You don't have the Jaws. You don't have the Odd Jobs. You don't have the, even someone like Red Grant, for instance. You don't see these kind of characters. I think they were trying to go for that tough guy Red Grant thing with Eric Kriegler, but he came off more as just Hans with a few speaking lines. He wasn't all that impressive. The locations were fine. I think there were a couple beautiful locations early on in Italy and whatnot. But overall, I think it's just a pretty basic film. Nothing stands out. There aren't those extravagant sets, locations, girls, villains, anything that you usually see in a Bond movie. So yeah, it's a good film, just not one of my...
Hello, James Bond Radio. This is Edgar in Montreal, Station C, Canada. I was very excited with the opportunity to leave a 90-second review for Your Eyes Only. By the way, guys, great episodes, a great two-parter on that movie. I think you guys did a bang-up job reviewing it, going into detail as per usual. As for myself, I was it's always been one of my favorite Bond films. I actually think it's one of the most underrated Bond movie in large part due to the fact that I think what Roger Moore did in Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker overshadows a lot of the other stuff he did during his tenure. I love the fact that it's a bit more down to earth, it's a bit more gritty. Even Roger Moore himself gives a slightly more austere, a slightly more somber performance. There's some quips here or there, but I think it's a slightly grittier Roger Moore, or at least as gritty as he was ever going to get. I'm a huge fan of Christatos. I think he's a wonderful villain. And ultimately, I mean, how can you go wrong with the classic line, go put on some clothes and I'll buy you some ice cream? Wonderful, wonderful line. Just a classic. Anyways, thanks again, guys. I listen every week. Keep up the great work, and bye.
Hi JBR, Phil Mattiello here. I love For Your Eyes Only. It's in my top 10 all-time Bond films, second Roger behind Spy Who Loved Me. The rock climbing sequence toward the end is just absolutely brilliant, but my favourite part is the ski chase, especially chasing a bobsleigh down a run with a motorbike behind you. That stunt is just incredible. To do that now, a modern film would just CGI it, I'd guess, but to actually do it, hats off to him. I love the soundtrack. It's not a classic, but it's just funky and of its time. I listen to that all the time. The Bombbird's tidy, can't go wrong there. The only downside is nobody could mistake a Scouse accent for a Manc accent. That's always bugged me. So until the next time, this is me signing off. Oh, one additional, bit late to the party, but I absolutely love Spectre. Cheers, guys. Keep up the great work.
Hi Tom, Chris, how's it going? It's Sean over here, just leaving a quick message for the review of Your Eyes Only. I have to say, I really dig this film big time. I think right from the gun bar, the music of the gun bar just sets the tone. That music actually I was my ringtone on my phone, which is a great piece of music. Even the pre-title sequence is brilliant. The stunts are amazing. Moving on then, through to the car chase. Again, it's good to see Bond, maybe not in a flashy Aston Martin, but a wee Citroen C2V. Again, the chases on the snow, the stunts are amazing. It's brilliant to see. I definitely think this film is so underrated. I'd actually have it up there. It's probably one of my favourite Roger Moore films. Again, the killing of Locke, I really like that. Sort of shows Bond sort of back a wee bit like the books. Ruthless. Again, the underwater scenes and it's right out of Fleming is brilliant. Really like that stuff. So overall, I have to say I really like this film. I have it up right up there with Living That Day and Spy. I think Roger Moore is brilliant in it, and I can't praise this film enough. So brilliant. Love the reviews again, guys, and keep up the good work. Cheers.
Hi, Tom and Chris. This is Meds from Waffle On Podcast. Fantastic podcast, guys. I absolutely love it. I get excited every time I know I've got a new James Bond radio podcast to listen to. So, For Your Eyes Only, it's a classic Roger Moore film. I like the fact we get a bit of bad Roger in this, a little bit of the killer in him. He's a 00 agent. Bond kills people. And the fact that he kicks that car off the cliff and you see it go down. People say, oh, it doesn't work with Roger. I think it does, because it just goes to show what Bond is like. Yes, he can be humorous. Yes, he can be suave, but he's also a killer. And every now and again, when you get someone who goes against the grain, as he normally would, I think it really works. It's a great John Glenn, directed Bond. I really like his contribution to the franchise. I think every Bond fan respects that. Carol Bouquet as Melina. What a wonderful Bond girl. The most beautiful eyes in Bond films, I think, is absolutely brilliant. And Top Hole, a great friend of Bond's. I'd love to have seen that character come back. Maybe we'll get to see it. The mountaineering scene is absolutely brilliant. You really do feel the tension on that. And the special effects throughout this film are top notch. Once again, massive thanks to Derek Meddings. Wonderful surname, that one there. Especially the underwater scenes and how they did that to make you feel like they're underwater. Genius filmmaking. Anyway, great film. Can't wait to hear the next podcast, guys. Please do keep up the good work. It's very much appreciated. And take care. Bye-bye.
Hello, listeners and readers of James Bond Radio. I must say I've been entertained by these two gentlemen's comments and reviews of the film For Your Eyes Only. I think of it more as a gentle conversation than review. I've enjoyed every second of it. My particular favourite moment probably where I raise my eyebrow from the car. But I think that the whole of the film is very much in the spirit of Fleming. Yes, in the spirit of Fleming, that's right. Sorry, I just thought I'd take over from Roger there, because he was, the way that his comment worked was fine, but I want to add my own comment as well. My style of comment on Your Eyes Only would be different to his.
Guys, I just need to interrupt you both. Actually, I like For Your Eyes Only the most. It was there, let us not forget, when I was spotted by Cobby and everybody. They just said, that gal be Bond one day. And sure enough, I was. Yes. Oh, I've been watching For Your Eyes Only. I've been watching all the Bond films because I'm going to be James Bond one day. Hiddleston, shut up. Shut up now. Move on. It's never going to happen. It's Daniel Craig all the way. Guys, I've watched it. I enjoyed it. It's a good thriller, and you did a great job reviewing it. Well done. Keep it up. Mwah.
Hello, Chris and Tom. My name is Simon from London, and this is the first time contacting your podcast. I really liked your For Your Eyes Only review, and there's a lot of it I pretty much agree with. All of the sequences are pretty damn good. Opening with Bond visiting Tracy in the cemetery, which is a lovely touching moment. The great helicopter scene with Blofeld, a lot of fun, a lot of great action. Probably as Tom says, one of my favourite Roger moments, the smile in the Citroen 2CV car chase. That's just beautiful. And then the main action sequences, the ski sequence, the rock climbing, fantastic, really memorable stuff. There's a great ally in Colombo. Q's bit in the confessionals, fantastic. Yet, if there is one problem I have with the film, is that the stakes are very low in the film. The actual ATAC plot doesn't make for a really tense plot, and overall, the pace, the direction maybe needed a bit more vim and vigour, but I think it's a really fine Roger Moore film, one I will watch many times again.
Hi guys, it's Bram from Bolton. I'm leaving my 9-second review of For Your Eyes Only. I've just rewatched this film 2 weeks ago for the first time in 10, 11, maybe 12 years. Partially because you guys had just started to review it, and I was sitting there listening thinking, oh yeah, not seen it for a bit. Also, it was my birthday and I fancied a Roger Moore Bond film, so this is what I picked. I'm not sure why I haven't rewatched this movie as often as other Roger Moore Bond films. Certainly movies such as The Spy Who Loved Me, Moonraker, Octopussy and A View to a Kill, I must have watched 5 times each in that same time period. But still, this is a very good Bond movie with some of Roger Moore's finest moments as Bond. The opening sequence with the helicopter, very exciting. The trawler sequence, very well done. The car chase and Bond's little nod of the head to the henchman in the car next to him. Good old Sir Rog. The ski chase, the keyhole scene and the mountain climbing sequence all very well done. And of course Roger Moore's finest moment as Bond when he kicks Locke's car off the top of the mountain. If there's any fault with the film, not really a fault, more small niggle. The pirate sequence is a little humorous compared to the rest of the film what's come before, but I can forgive it for that. As a bald man myself, I wish I could have taken Bond's advice to Blofeld. All right, keep your hair on. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
This is JBR listener Mark Campbell from Seattle, Washington. Roger's Bond comes down to earth in For Your Eyes Only with stellar results. Moore gives Bond a harder edge, and with John Glenn's directing debut, we are given a solid spy thriller with plenty of action and intrigue. This Bond is often overlooked, but with repeat viewings, gets better with age. The exciting pre-title sequence gives Bond a bit of history and humanity while handily dispatching of what can only be Blofeld. The whole sequence gives us a sense of closure fans were denied when Diamonds Are Forever followed up Majesty's Secret Service with comedy instead of revenge. The title sequence is classic Moore-era Bond with a fantastic theme song delivered by Sheena Easton. What follows is a great spy thriller set across the spectacular scenery of the Italian Alps and the Greek islands. High points. Car chase with Bond and Melina in the underdog Citroën 2CV is simply one of the best car chases in the series. The ski chase in Cortina is one of the best ever filmed and almost rivals Majesty's. People are often put off by Bill Conti's score for the film, but his music for both these sequences is spot on. Another high point is the boat drag sequence lifted from the novel Live and Let Die. Another is a rock climbing sequence. Everything is handled with deft direction by Bond veteran John Glenn, finally in command. The film is also full of great characters. Carol Bouquet is Melina, whose eyes can communicate much without words. Bibi Dahl, comedically playing against Moore's advancing age. And Topol is Columbo. He enters the elite status of memorable rogue allies such as Karen Bay and Draco.
Hello guys, this is my 90-second review of For Your Eyes Only. This is Tony Black. I previously had a difficult relationship with this film. I didn't think it was Roger's best. I'd grown up watching all his 80s stuff, which is still my favourite. But I rewatched this at Christmas and I found a lot more to love about it. I think it shows an uncharacteristic side of Roger that we hadn't seen since briefly in Man with the Golden Gun, where he's darker and he's edgier, the way he kills Locke and some of his actions. It really brings the series down to earth after Moonraker, which was a lot better than people give it credit for. But Bond had got so big that it was the only real way they could do it. And it was well paced. It's got some dodgy stuff, like all the stuff with the little skiing girl. I can't even remember her name now. That's all a bit dodgy, and she's a bit rubbish. But it's got some good stuff in it. It's got a lot to like, and I just feel that it's a lot better than people give it credit for, and it's got some really good action sequences. And it's got Roger in a car chase with a Citroen. I mean, what driving a Citroen? What more do you need? What more do you honestly need? So yeah, I really enjoyed it. So cheers for that, guys. Keep up with the work, and speak to you again.
This is Agent 00K, and I'm back with my 90-second review of For Your Eyes Only, a very aptly named Bond film, in my opinion, because everything we see on the screen is great. It's the score that really suffers in this one. All the action scenes are very well done. There's multiple layers to them. There's lots of tense moments. All of the characters in this movie are really interesting, and they add to the plot. Roger Moore does a great job as Bond. He has some really classic moments, like kicking Locke off the ledge, the rock climbing, lots of touching moments. And I think it's really solid in terms of everything in that regard. The score is where I have my issue with this movie. I think it's probably the worst score in the entire franchise. I don't know what Conti was thinking, but some of this stuff just doesn't work at all. I really wish we had a John Barry score. If we had Barry for this, I think this could be a top 5 film for me. The only other thing that I don't really like about this movie is the pre-title sequence. It's not entertaining to me. I don't find the humor funny. And I think it's a bad way to end the Blofeld saga. I wish they had done something different. But as it stands, I think this is still a really solid Bond entry. Roger Moore's third best behind Octopussy and The Spy Who Loved Me.
Hi, Chris. Hi, Tom. This is Brett calling from Hamburg, Germany. I think For Your Eyes Only is Roger's best Bond by far. It's one of the best altogether. The action's top-notch. The characters really solid, especially for a Bond movie. I think it's a very unique movie because it's like old MacGuffin. It's the most MacGuffin-like MacGuffin of all time. Bond knows from the beginning what's going on. He's not following a suspicious billionaire for 45 minutes or an hour, and there's no monologues explaining crazy megalomaniacal plots. It's just go get this thing, and so you have more time for these great action sequences, the ski chase, the car chase at the start, the climbing. And the characters are just really solid. Columbo, Melina, Christados, Bond himself, even someone like Brink, they all kind of feel like they would have existed before the movie started. They're not just there to service the plot. They kind of seem like real people more than most other Bonds. And I'd like to see them go back to this style sometime. This is really the only one quite like that. So maybe when they're done with the current arc, whatever it's going to be, they could do another Super MacGuffin style plot. Thanks. Keep up the good work.
Hey guys, this is Chris calling from Detroit. Love the show. And I really wanted to call in about this movie in particular because for me, For Your Eyes Only has always been a top 5 Bond movie. And I feel like I'm on the same page with a lot of Bond fans about the top, 5 or 10 Bond movies. Except for this one. This one never seems to come up, and it's always been a mystery to me why. It's my favorite Roger Moore movie, but quite a long stretch. I think it's the most tonally consistent of the Moore movies. And it just has everything you want in a Bond movie. I think all the action is top notch. I think the pre-title sequence is fantastic. You got some great underwater stuff. The car chase is amazing. You guys talked about it, and that kind of, I think, exemplifies what's so good about this movie is that that sequence is exciting and there's a lot of humor, but they don't take it too far in terms of the humor. You've got a ski sequence that's second only to Majesty's, probably, and you've got that climbing sequence, which is fantastic. I think Melina is probably the best Bond girl in any of the Roger Moore movies. And I just think it's really good. Now, in terms of asterisks or what kind of detracts from this movie, I think the big one is the score. I think the score dates this movie in a way the movie doesn't deserve. And I think if it had a classic Barry score, this movie would have dated a lot better and would be remembered more fondly. Anyway, thank you.
Hi guys, this is Chris Hatton here with my review of For Your Eyes Only. I wasn't a fan of this originally when I was younger. It's got better over recent times. It's a bit of a grower, I think, but I do like it a lot now. I think the pre-titles are fantastic. One of the most iconic pre-titles ever. Really good start to the film. I think there's fantastic suspense throughout. John Glenn does a great job. You've got the climbing scene, the warehouse scene, the underwater scenes, all really suspenseful, fantastic stuff. The climbing scene is one of the most iconic scenes ever. I love it. Brilliant. The downside is obviously the film hasn't got the best villains. Not really memorable. And it can be a bit slow at times. But saying that, it's got Columbo, who is one of the most memorable allies in the series. He's so charming, one of my favourite characters in the series, to be honest. I absolutely love him. So overall, I think it's a really, really good film. And yeah, really good. See you in a bit.
Hello, my name is Wilfred Picorelli from Station PR in Puerto Rico. Well, For Your Eyes Only, Roger Moore's fifth Bond film. A very, very different kind of film from Moonraker. And I like the take on the character. I like the direction John Glenn took Roger Moore to portray the character. I like the story. I like the Bond girl Melina. I like it that it was for a short story. Elements from For Your Eyes Only from Risico were used in the film. I love the chase sequence in Spain, even though it was filmed in Greece. And pretty much I like the film. It's not one of my favorites of the Roger Moore Bond film, but it's one of the best in terms of story, instead of character. The music I'm not so fond of. And pretty much it's better than Moonraker. It's very, very, very improvement from Moonraker. So, yes, I like very much For Your Eyes Only. And, yeah, that's all I have to say. And thank you for the opportunity, guys.
Hello, boys. It's Steve Batchelor here with my 90-second review of For Your Eyes Only. So, as you rightly said in the podcast, a bit of a hidden classic. The good points. Rog, on tremendous form. Arguably the best he's been. Gritty scenes, in character all the way through. Gets to do some action that's even borderline convincing at points, like the raid on the warehouse. And also plays up his increasing age quite nicely in a way that shows a deftness of touch. Great to have some Fleming scenes in there. Columbo's incredibly charismatic. Melina's convincing as vengeful. It's an interesting story, and it's like a Cold War thriller that just happens to have James Bond in it. It's quite similar in style and tone to some of the other things Roger was doing at the time, like North Sea Hijack. The bad points. When it does go a bit Rog fantastical, it really jars in this one. The laughing sort of Dracula Blofeld, other elements of it skiing down the Cresta Run, that kind of thing. The villains are fairly unmemorable, really. No one really stands out, although in a way they shouldn't be too arch in something like that. And finally, the terrible score. It really is awful. I mean, I know Tom likes it, but a John Barry score on this would have pushed it really much further up my best of list. So just to finish, a great gritty Bond thriller, like a Dalton film, before Dalton was around. Keep up the good work, chaps, and keep on keeping the British end up.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Tom. It's Tom Barwick here. I just thought I'd let you know my thoughts on For Your Eyes Only. So the pre-title sequence is one of the weaker ones, in my opinion. I just feel there's some really good stunts in it, but the overall feeling is that the pre-title sequence is a bit of a cheap send-off for Blofeld, and I really don't like it for that reason. But after that, you've got a really good song, and it goes into segues into a really nice, quite brutal scene with the sinking of the ship. And I think that it sets the tone for a really, really good, grounded Bond film with Roger Moore looking quite suited to doing that style of Bond. And overall, I quite like him doing that. The ending, I actually don't mind it. It is a bit dated now, but I don't mind it so much. One of the things that gets criticised a lot is the score. I don't mind. I don't like the disco elements, but some of the more orchestral pieces, like when they climb St. Cyril's and when they arrive when Bond arrives in Cortina, I actually quite like. So it kind of evens itself out a little bit. But overall, a really, really good film that I enjoyed very much.
Hi, my name is Benjamin, and here is my review of For Your Eyes Only. For Your Eyes Only is quite a bold statement, but it's my favourite Bond film. And I might even go far enough to say favourite film of all time. Tom and Chris, you talk a lot about how some Bond films just click for some people, and that every Bond film is their favourite Bond film for at least somebody. And this is the case for me. It's not my first one. That would be You Only Live Twice. But it was the first one on DVD, and the first one which I caught the bug. Like GoldenEye for you, Tom. There's a timeless feel to this film for me. The 80s soundtrack I just adore. It works for me. I know that people might not like it because it's different, but And Ride in the Country is my favourite piece of Bond music ever. As far as the movie itself, it kind of creates a world of its own for me. I mean, it's so connected with nostalgia. The characters, Cristados, Columbo, Molina, Bond, they just make a world of its own. And I think Roger Moore's role, his portrayal of Bond in this one is top notch. He's very gentlemanly. He's very, he refuses to sleep with BB, and very funny. A kind of well-rounded, kind of a mix between Fleming and Bond. The movie Bond. That's why I have to.
Hi guys, James Murphy here, one of your biggest fans, I'm sure. What can I say? I think For Your Eyes Only is a very accomplished, very effective, self-contained thriller that manages to, in a way that I think your best friend Die Another Day wanted to but failed, to unite the grit, so to speak, much as that word is overused and I hate it, to unite the sort of the grittiness of a proper Ian Fleming thriller with some of the more fantastical aspects that some of the Bond movies had tried to integrate as well. So even though Bond doesn't go into space and it's completely different from Moonraker or Spy Who Loved Me, you still get visual elements of that. There is something fantastical about the underwater sequence, for example. But at the same time, it manages to fuse with a coherent story that's quite simple and basic and clear, and functions as a, I suppose, an independent spy story that simply happens to have James Bond in it. At the same time, you get all of the Bond trappings, the connoisseur, the womanizer, the joker, and funnily enough, the charming but ruthlessly efficient killer. And I think Roger Moore pulls all those things off. People are surprised by that, but if you watch a movie like Wild Geese, there's a scene in that where, that could be pure Dalton Craig Bond. He is and was capable of it. And that should be remembered. Thanks, guys. Love the work. Keep it up.
Hey guys, this is JBR listener Matthew Noble giving you my thoughts on For Your Eyes Only. Overall, decent Bond movie, not one of the best. I wouldn't put this on par with Roger's first three films, for instance, but still plenty of fun. Roger himself, I think, does a good job in this movie. Given the direction they were going and how old Roger was at this point, I feel maybe a younger actor would have been a better fit. Timothy Dalton, for instance, of course, I think would have done very well in this. Christatos and Columbo, I like to talk about those two. Christatos, not the best Bond villain. He almost works better as an ally, more so than a villain, weirdly. But he's passable. Columbo, on the other hand, is excellent, I'd say. One of Roger's best allies. The trio of women in this, no real standouts. I think Liesl's probably my favourite. But they all do their job pretty well, definitely. Melina and Bibi and so on. Best part for me, driving the country definitely comes close, but it has to be the winter sports. Worst part, Thatcher. Enjoyable, but silly, even for Moore. So yeah, that's all I've got to say. Thanks guys, keep up the good work, and I look forward to hearing everyone.
Hello, Tom and Chris. This is John calling from sunny Da Nang in Vietnam, where I work part-time for a company called Green Planet. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, I think For Your Eyes Only is one of the best. Sometimes I think it's the best James Bond for me. It hits all the right notes, I think, for me. It's got some humor, it's got a beautiful heroine, it's got some moments of real tension, and I think that's what some of the Bond movies lack sometimes. I think they lack sort of those moments where you think he's done for, maybe. I mean, you know he's going to survive, but it's like you're really sweating it out with Bond, and I think this has a couple of moments, like when he's pinned down in the snow by a sniper and really has to rely on his wits to get him out of it. And also the siege on St. Cyril's, which is it's a white knuckle ride for me because I am shit scared of heights myself, and I just feel the bottom fall out of the floor. I mean, the floor fall out from under me when I see that. Anyway, my time is almost up.
Hi, this is Doug Thompson from New Zealand, calling in for the 90-second For Your Eyes Only review. Look, I love this film. It's probably one of my favourite Roger Moore films. I know that may shock many, but after having all the campness of some of Moore's ones, it's a really welcome tone. And, you know, it's funny, a lot of people do draw parallels to On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and, you know, I can totally agree with that. As a child, I didn't really enjoy it as much, obviously for the seriousness of it, but as I've got older and older and watched it, every time I watch it, I love it more. It's not too fantastical. It's got some freaking awesome scenes, like the climbing scene, still to this day, is fantastic. I love the Citroen, the spin on the whole average car. I love the fact that the Lotus blows up as a security measure. I know a lot of people don't have love for the Bill Conti score, and I can see why. It's not John Barry, but there are some tracks that are just really, really great. I just love the 80ness of it. It's fantastic. Not too many low points. I love the dragging through the reef scene, and most of the characters are pretty good. But anyway, yeah, I love it, and I'd say it's probably my second top favourite film of Moore's. Thank you. Goodbye.
Say For Your Eyes Only to the casual Bond fan, and they'll probably raise an eyebrow akin to Roger in blind ignorance, but with intrigue. The 12th 007 adventure and the first to welcome in Bond to the 1980s is criminally underrated and undervalued in the Bond canon, in my opinion. For those who, like me, see one of Roger Moore's finest performances and a welcome return to the It Could Happen verisimilitude of the Bond series that we hadn't seen since On Her Majesty's Secret Service, there are plenty of naysayers who find plenty to complain about. No, Eyes Only doesn't have the greatest, most engaging narrative in the series, nor does it have the strongest villain. But it's a perfect ensemble piece that evokes more than passing references to Fleming, and of course has the killing of Locke in cold blood, one of Roger Moore's best Bond scenes and one of the best Bond scenes in the series. Carol Bouquet is one of the most beautiful and well fleshed out of the Bond girls. Columbo is one of Bond's finest allies, and yes, despite Bill Conti's experimental score being a product of its time, the same can surely be said for Marvin Hamlish's effort on Spy, it provides the series with one of the most urgent opening gun barrels whose only rival is License to Kill. This is feel-good Bond, stripped of superfluous gadgets, with his feet firmly on the ground, and it should at least appear in everyone's top 10 of Bond. I urge you to give For Your Eyes Only another chance. This is James Crawford Clark, signing off.
There we go. So how many was that? 34, 35 listeners? Great, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I was interested to see what sort of turnout we get, because obviously when we did the Spectre episode, Spectre was at fever pitch, wasn't it? A brand new Bond film. It doesn't get more sort of fever pitch for Bond fans around the world. So I was thinking, for a film like that, especially one like For Your Eyes Only, which does tend to sort of it's not foremost on the minds of most people. It's not like a Goldfinger or a Live and Let Die or something. Do you know what I mean? And I thought, I wonder how many reviews we'll get. So I was pleasantly surprised. I think we got just over 50 for Spectre. So 34, 35 For Your Eyes Only is a good effort, I think. So well done, JBR listeners.
Yes, we salute you indeed. And the interesting thing as well, obviously, there was a lot of praise for the film, which is great. We didn't really have too many naysayers in terms of, I absolutely hate this film, it's the worst film ever, you know. Obviously, you got a couple of those with Spectre, but I guess emotions were high sort of thing. But I think with this film, a lot of people were praising it, particularly the action scenes. Obviously, the drive in the country, the skiing scene, the climbing scene, that tend to be quite popular. There was also people like the Cold War, obviously going down from Moonraker back down to Earth, the Cold War sort of thriller sort of setting, which I think, we mentioned before is quite similar to both From Russia and On Her Majesty's in its own little way, which is quite cool. What was quite interesting though, the pre-title sequence, some people loved it. They were like, it's one of the best pre-title sequences. Other people, oh my god, I can't believe that was the worst way to kill Blofeld and all this, and it was completely... That is a real divider, isn't it, the pre-title sequence?
It is, and I can totally see why, because it's like, I mean, like we talked about, this movie has a lot of nods to Majesties, doesn't it? With the skiing sequences and the scene on the beach with Liesel and all that kind of stuff. It definitely has that feel. And obviously, you got Tracy's grave at the beginning. Lots of throwbacks there. And when you see what an emotional ending Majesties has, to make Blofeld's death a comedy moment isn't that fitting. But, well, it's not fitting at all, really. But at the same time, this is Roger we're dealing with. And I feel like, I don't know, it is a funny mix, that one, because it's like, we've got Roger, so it's definitely going to have the lighter tone anyway. But at the same time, it's like, it is a disappointment because of what happened with Majesties in the open end and not getting any resolution. So to finally get like a sort of bit of resolution a bit down the line with For Your Eyes Only, I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Obviously, I wanted the George to come back in Diamonds and do it properly. But I love Roger, and I think everyone remembers dropping Blofeld down the chimney, don't they? It's one of those things that everyone sort of remembers that scene, for better or for worse. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, it's an interesting one. I think that, well, for me personally, I used to love it when I was a kid. That scene. I just like the whole remote control helicopter and stuff like that. I think almost if this pre-title sequence had been at the start of Moonraker, it would have kind of blended in seamlessly to that film.
That's true.
I think because the rest of For Your Eyes Only is so different in terms of compared to the other Moors, but also compared to this pre-title sequence, it's a lot grittier and stuff like that, which you have at the very start with the gravestone sort of scene, with the gravestone sort of part. It would have fitted in with any of the other sort of more fantastical Rogers, but maybe it's a little bit jarring because of the rest of this film is gritty. But overall, I still think it was an entertaining.
Yeah, I think in order to enjoy it, you've just got to disconnect that Majesties thing, as hard as it is, because to go from Tracy's grave, which is super emotional, to keep your hair on. Do you know what I mean? isn't right, I don't think. So it's one of those things, and we know obviously there was the whole build up to Never Say Never Again happening in the history of Bond at this point. So it was like, a middle finger to old McClory there. But I see why they did it. But it's a fun. I think you just have to sort of put the Majesty's emotions on the shelf for this one and just enjoy it for what it is for that pre-titles. But I get the disconnect. I get the two camps of thought about that. But I think all in all, to sort of wrap up our For Your Eyes Only coverage, I think what I've learned, and this is what I always wanted from doing this podcast, is to rediscover Bond with fresh eyes with each film and go through. And I've rediscovered what for me is a forgotten classic, and I like I always said, I didn't watch this film for years and sort of put it on the shelf, and I think coming back to it, I'd completely forgot what a belter it is, and I think Roger, for me, if I think of Roger looking his absolute coolest, like super suave, sexy Bond, I think of two scenes. I think of in Spy when he's got the black shirt on and Anya's saying, "Did you kill my man?" And there's that. And then in the scene on the beach with Lisa where he's got the open collar shirt, or maybe even when he's got the old blue V-neck on the end at the end with the coral sequence. Roger looks the business in those sequences. I think he really looks cool. And like we said, he's obviously at this point he's advancing in age, but he's not like, I don't know, he still carries off like the sexy old dude vibe really well, I think. And I can understand why BB would want a piece of the action.
Oh, well, there we go. Yeah, I bet she would. So the other thing, though, something that we mentioned actually in our reviews, was the score. Now, there were one or two listeners who liked it, and there were quite a few that had certain parts that they liked. But overall, it tended to be that it was a bit of a letdown. Yeah. For the majority, I think, which kind of echoes our sort of thoughts in a way, doesn't it? Certain tracks love it, but overall, it would have been interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like we said, I think this movie is crying out for a John Barry score, and it's a shame it didn't get one. But I mean, you bring in Bill Conti, fresh off Rocky, and that dude can obviously write an iconic theme tune. Jesus Christ Almighty, yeah. But I think it was just a bit too weird, way too much silence for me. I think using silence as a tool is important, like for things like the bungee jump and all that kind of stuff in GoldenEye, and it works. But there was so much silence in this movie. I don't know. It's a weird one. But then again, it's that age-old thing whereby when something is different and it's not John Barry, your immediate reaction is, "Ooh, that's different. I don't like it." Do you know what I mean? Sam Smith thing is the perfect example of that. And I think maybe it was just, rewind to the early 80s and it was like a fresh attempt at Bond. It was kind of going to be a different actor for a while there, and then Roger comes back. It's definitely a different vibe. So it's like going for a different sound. It's like, when Timothy turns up and John Barry did a whole sort of updated sound for the new Bond. And I think maybe that was just what they were going for. Of course, I would like to see a John Barry score for every Bond film, but you can't have that. So yeah, I don't know. It is a weird score for me, though it is all completely saved by because I adore that piece of music.
It's good. And also, speaking of Rocky, props has to go out to Jack Taylor, who after our last review, when I mentioned that we should see Rog running up the stairs to the Rocky theme tune, he only went and did it, Tom. Yeah. He only went and cut it together, and it looks the business. So if there's anyone listening who hasn't seen it, if you go onto the Facebook page, scroll down, you'll find a video with Rog sort of doing some stair running without a single huff or a puff to the Rocky theme tune. Damn. And I thought it was pretty awesome. So yeah, that's cool.
Nice work, Jack Taylor. Now, speaking of videos from the JBR family, we got a little message from JBR listener Dan Gale, who some JBR listeners who pay attention might recognise as the creator of our little jingles that we use for Guess the Music Cue and Bond Celebrity Deathmatch and all those kinds of things, and most recently Tommy Trivia. And he sent us this, basically a video report that he was like, if you want to use this in the podcast, go ahead. And I thought, all right, I'll have a little look, press play. And it absolutely blew us away, didn't it? In every imaginable way. Good, yeah. It was like, I thought, he writes a good jingle, does Dan Gal, but his video skills even surpassed that, and it was amazing. So I thought let's include that in this week's podcast, and yeah. So it's basically if you're listening, you'll still, rather than watching on YouTube, you'll still get the benefit of this little sort of 5-minute report or whatever, but really you need to watch it on YouTube. So even if you're listening on iTunes, make sure you jump on YouTube at some point and sort of skip forward to this section, because you have to see the video, because it's bloody amazing. So let's cut to the video and stop chinwagging about it and let Dan speak for himself, because it's bloody amazing. So let's watch Dan's video.
Hello Tom, hello Chris. I'm Dan Gale from Station S in Somerset, which is just across the water from where Chris is in Station C. We all know what C stands for. I wanted to take this opportunity, if I may, to briefly discuss a phenomenon that some JBR listeners may not be aware of, but I think they should know about. Back in 2000, a rather disappointing computer game came out. Got it here somewhere. 007 Racing. Promised a lot, delivered very little. But things have come on leaps and bounds since then. And a game came out in 2013 which is not Bond related, but is very, very similar to that. And I think you would be interested in hearing about it. And that's this one. Gran Turismo 6.
Not from me, thanks.
If you are interested in hearing more about this game, and I hope somebody is, then I have compiled the following report for your entertainment, in which I review it in nauseating detail. So this is a competition car racing game in which you take part in various tournaments. The tracks are all faithful recreations of actual racetracks from around the world, Brands Hatch, Silverstone, the Nürburgring, etc. There's even some tracks set in the streets of London, Rome or Tokyo. You start off with a crappy little car and enter easy races against other crappy little cars, and when you inevitably win, you are rewarded with imaginary money, and eventually you'll earn enough to start buying new cars. And in this game there are 1,197 different cars to choose from, all of them based on real cars. And wouldn't you know it, there's a handful of Bond cars in the game as well. Obviously this isn't a Bond game, it's pure coincidence that they're on the list, but it's great fun finally getting behind the wheels of some of the cars you've seen in the movies. A really nice feature is that after each race you get to re-watch your performance as if it was being televised, and you can even save these mini-movies for future posterity. The Aston Martin DB5 is not in the game, unfortunately, but then there are a number of other Bond games where you do get to drive one, so it doesn't really matter. However, there is a Vanquish, which was Bond's less than visible car in Die Another Day. There's a Vantage, albeit a different shaped model to the one he drove in The Living Daylights, and there are a number of other Astons that all look so much like Casino Royale's DBS that they may as well be the DBS. I bought a DB9, which I really like, and now I've souped it up a little bit, it goes like a rocket. If you remember, the filmmakers set a world record for the number of times their Aston flipped over during the filming of Casino Royale 7. I've managed to equal this in my DB9, quite accidentally just by smashing into another car at high speed. Whilst not a new world record, it's certainly a personal best, and one that I hope I never top in real life. Other Bond-related cars you can buy include the BMW Z8 from The World Is Not Enough, Tracy's Mercury Cougar XR7 from On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Tiffany's rental car from Diamonds Are Forever, the red Ford Mustang Mach-1, the Audi Quattro Bond drove in The Living Daylights, Aki's amazing Toyota 2000 GT from You Only Live Twice, unfortunately Aki isn't included, the Fiat 500 the old man was driving around Rome in SPECTRE, and Zhao's Jaguar XKR from Die Another Day.
Even Hugo Drax's Mercedes-Benz 300 SL used in the novel of Moonraker is available. I recently noticed that Fatima Blush's fantastic little Renault 5 Turbo is also available, and it's even in the same colour. You can, if you so desire, spend your hard-won cash on a Citroën 2CV, but the option to spray it yellow isn't there, unfortunately. But if you've bought that car, that's the least of your problems, because it actually goes quicker backwards than it does forwards. If this isn't enough, there's several bonus levels where you get to test drive cars you can't even dream of affording around the country lanes of Goodwood. One of which is a prototype Aston Martin called the 177, of which in real life only 77 were ever made, so this is your only chance, and it is a beast. Plus another bonus level sends you to a location even Bond hasn't been to yet, properly, the moon. Here you get to drive the Lunar Rover Explorer around 3 tracks carved out on the lunar surface. Unfortunately, you don't get the chance to drive it around the Nevada desert. There's probably several other Bond cars I haven't even found yet, but my favourite is the white Lotus Esprit Turbo. This car, once tinkered with, goes like a drop of water dancing on an electric hob. You practically float past the other cars. The game makers have even gone that extra mile and found the correct engine sounds for each make of car. Plus they've gone to the effort of giving you the correct pitch of horn to sound as you fly past the other drivers. To make the game even more exciting, you can choose what music you want to play as you're driving. Just upload some Bond soundtracks to your PS3 and you can be drifting your Aston Martin around the streets of Rome to the Spectre score by Thomas Newman, taking a drive in the country with Bill Conti, or whizzing through the deserts of America in your red Mustang listening to John Barry. You can even pause the game or the playback film at any point to take screen grabs, allowing you to adjust the camera's aperture, shutter speed and lens length to get that perfect image. With games as fun as this, and with Bond games seemingly on hiatus, I think it's definitely time someone got the rights to make a Bond driving game to this level of realism. I think they've done the first-person shooting thing enough now. Imagine online races with other players around the world set in locations featured in Bond films, only with smoke screens, oil slicks and missiles to slow each other down. Tuk-tuk chases around the streets of Delhi avoiding camels and blunderbusses. High-speed DB5 pursuits around the labyrinthine roads of Pinewood Studios. Speedboat chases along the bayous of Louisiana. Little Nelly defending her honour over the skies of Japan. Or even imagine the mayhem you could cause with 5 petrol-filled Kenworth tanker trucks. We can but dream. In the meantime, this is a pretty good alternative. So there you have it. It's a Bond game that I think most Bond fans should know about, even though Bond isn't in it. Because it's only available on the PlayStation 3, you might have to go out and buy a second-hand PS3, but they're pretty cheap now. The game itself is 3 years old, so you can get that for a £5 from eBay. I just wanted to let people know about it because it's great fun. And I also wanted to take the opportunity to congratulate Tom and Chris on their sterling effort. Keeping this podcast going is clearly very difficult, but you do it amazingly, and you've got your work cut out trying to beat the first 100 or so episodes in the future. It's going to be a challenge, I know, but I know you won't let us down. Good luck, men.
So there we have it. Now, that little opening sequence with Dan stood in M's office, I think is a stroke of genius. I mean, again, just describe it for the listeners. He's basically superimposed himself over M's office, and he stood there, and he's got his suit on. And do you know what? What happened there is, when M's a bit grumpy with him and all the rest of it, there's in Dan's performance there was some shades of Connery. It reminded me of when M goes, "Now that we're all here," in Thunderball, when Bond sits down and sort of Connery sort of rolls his eyes a little bit. There was a touch of that in there. So Dan Gale, we salute you for your performance as well as your video editing skills. But there we go. So yeah, so it's the video game world is something neither of us are that well sort of versed in, is it? Especially in terms of video games in general, but there's a whole world of Bond gameage, and we've played around with it, GoldenEye and all those kinds of things.
GoldenEye, I think, that was the one that I think everyone across the whole planet was playing for about a whole year straight.
Yeah, completely.
Which was brilliant.
Yeah, totally. So there's that, but we're not sort of super experts in the world of Bond video games, which is why we haven't really done any coverage on it. So as Dan is so bloody good at this, we said to him, look, if you want to make some more, we'd love to sort of take you on as our sort of JBR video game correspondent, as you will. So if you enjoyed that video, make sure you let us know on the Facebook. So give Dan a bit of encouragement, because he said, we'll put the first one out, see how it goes down, and if people like it, then I'll do some more. So basically, flood the Facebook and the Twitters with Dan Gale praise, please, and then we'll get some more episodes, because they're bloody good fun to watch, and hopefully we'll see some more from Dan.
And what we can do then is maybe we can have a JBR meetup where we not only go to watch a film, but we have a bit of a Bond game sort of session going on at the same time.
All back to Dan's house.
Dan's,
Come on, Dan, get Gran Turismo out. Come on. I'm driving in the Aston Martin.
No, that'd be good. We'll have to sort that out at some point.
Absolutely. Sure. Cool stuff. Righty ho then. So it's time we answered our Bond trivia question of the day, isn't it, Chris?
It is Bond trivia. Now I went first, so I'm going to ask you again, and I think a little spark is just going to go, and you're going to remember what it is. So my question for you was, Mr. Tom Sears, what message does Luigi Ferrara leave for Bond in his hotel ensuite bathroom?
I know he's basically telling him where to meet him and when, but I can't for the life of me remember what it actually says.
Do you remember the time?
Was it 2:00?
Oh, no. It was, if I give you the time, it's 10 a.m. The actual place was obviously on the resort, the mountain on the resort.
Yeah.
But it is a bit of a strange name. It begins with T for Tommy.
Do you know what? I felt it. I felt it. There was an awakening, and I felt it. And it was like, I wanted to say Tyrrell, right? Which is, I know isn't right. So I knew there was a T in there somewhere, but I don't know. You're going to have to give it to me.
Tyrrell sounds like St. Cyril.
It does, doesn't it?
But it's, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. It's either Tofana or Tofana.
There it is.
Tofana. Yeah, 10 a.m. And you know what's quite funny is that when you're into Bond, like I mentioned quite recently about I'm crap with foreign languages, but the very little that I have is generally from Bond films. And, when you're a fan of stuff like Bond, you kind of throw it into everyday life, sometimes accidentally, sometimes on purpose and stuff like this. And when I went away snowboarding, literally, I got to the room, I was about to have a shower, and I thought, I know what I'm going to do before I have a shower. I'm going to write Tofana 10 a.m. on the bathroom mirror. And it stayed there for the whole week. So whenever I had a shower, I had a nice little chuckle to myself and went, right, let's
Sweet,
go.
Man.
And I don't think anyone else that saw it kind of understood, but there we go.
I like it. Good. I like it a lot. If there's anything I enjoy more, it's bringing Bond into normal everyday life, and something as mundane as taking a shower can inject a bit of magic into it. I'm all for it. So well done, man. I salute you. Right, it's time for my question of the day, Chris, if you remember. My question of the day is, how many languages does Bond speak?
Okay, now this one is going to be tricky. I'm going to have to try and rack it off my brain because I don't know the number off the top of my head. Do you have Obviously, you've got a specific number in your head.
Well, I tell you what I did. I composed the question, and I thought, that would be a good one to do. So I Googled it, and there was this little box that popped up on Google that said precisely that. I was like, that's weird. There's some weird little thing that Google now does.
Okay.
So, yes, that's what I'm basing it on. I haven't poured through the books
You might
and gone
have
through
to
the movies
bear with me then.
yeah. So I haven't poured through the books and the films to pinpoint exactly what. I'm just going with what Google says, and Google always tells the truth.
Okay.
So there we go. So go on then. Let's lay it down, see what you think.
Does Google relate to Bond being fluent in a language or just knowing hello, goodbye, and thank you?
It's funny you should mention that because it gives you... okay, so no, I'm not going to do that yet. But it basically says which ones he's fluent in and which ones he's kind of all right in.
Right. Okay. So I'd say obviously fluent would be, I suppose, your European languages. So your English, your French, your German, your Italian, your Dutch. I don't think he'd be as into because when he was with Peter Franks, he didn't quite. I know he was kind of. He might know a little bit, but probably not a lot. Portuguese, he'd know. Have I said that? Portuguese. He'd know Swiss. What do you know? Maybe I don't know.
Swiss, I don't think is a language, is it? I think they speak French.
No, it's not. Is it? That's French.
Swiss,
yeah, what am I talking about? French. Okay, so where else has he been? Obviously, he's got a first in Oriental languages. Could that mean Japanese, Chinese? Is that like Hindustan? How many languages does that cover? Who knows? Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna
say. Okay. So you basically rattled some off there, and some of which, most of which are correct. Some of which, like Portuguese, for example, isn't in the list, right? But there are two.
Okay, so that might not be fluent.
Yeah. So there are two left. One he's apparently fluent in, and one he's a bit handy with.
Okay. Okay. Let me have a little think about this. Indian. You get octopussy? No, he didn't really say that, did he? He'd probably only know one or two words. Okay. That would be Hindu, obviously, not Indian. Russian.
Well done. That's one of them. Okay, so to run it out for you, because you've done it so far, with one exception left.
Right, okay.
Bond is fluent in French, Italian, German, and Russian. So you've got the 4 fluent ones down.
Right.
Now, the one he's a bit handy with is Spanish. You mentioned that. You mentioned the Oriental languages he's got first, so I would assume that means he's also fluent in the Oriental languages. So for the sake of argument, we're going to call that Chinese and Japanese. Lovely. Now there is one remaining language, Chris, that he's passable with.
Right. Is this an obvious one?
I could give you a clue that could be suitable to. All right.
Don't give me a clue just yet. Is it Middle Eastern?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. It's not Thai.
No.
Is it Eastern European?
I mean,
no, not really. Okay. Okay. I might need a clue on that one. So, no.
Go on. What were you going to say?
No. Go on.
Think about a film we've just watched.
Okay. Oh, Greek.
There it is.
Oh, silly me! How could I not?
He knows how to say Via Vanti. So there you go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's not in Greece though, is it? What a bellend. Yeah, so I take that back.
He knows how to say Eureka.
Yeah, he does know how to say
That's
Eureka.
Greek.
Absolutely. And Oronuzo, that's as far as you need to go. Lovely stuff.
Wicked.
Coolio.
That was hard.
It was difficult, wasn't it? I remember when I thought that, I was like, man, that's actually a tough question. But there we go. All right then. Cool. So it's time for the Guess the Quote round, Chris.
Ooh.
Let's have some theme tune.
You know what that means? It means Bond. James Bond.
Very nice. I love it. Good stuff.
Cool.
Now, if I remember correctly, it was your quote last time, was it not?
It was indeed. Now, I don't know if I quite got it right, but I'm hoping that the wording is easy to understand.
Yeah.
So if everything else is crap, you should get it from that. Okay, so my quote last time was, "Warn me Oh, that's so shit. Sorry. Hang on a minute. Wait a minute. Do you know what? I practiced this earlier today and it sounded so good, and now I can't do it properly. Okay, so wait a minute. Warn me. I need to get the thing right. Okay. Shit. Okay.
Do you know what? It's so funny is I love watching you get ready for these quotes. Like it encompasses your full body and your posture changes and the facial expression changes. I love the whole process of it. Let's give it one more try and then we'll go.
I'm gonna have to. I'll do a little bit first. Okay. Warn me. That sounds just the same.
Okay, now I think,
okay, so you've got the words. Okay,
yeah. So I've got a couple of possibilities in my mind.
Oh, that's a bit better.
Is it Pushkin?
No, it's quite a lot earlier than that.
Okay, quite a lot earlier than that. Okay, then that's going to wipe out my other possibility that I thought it might have been. Let me just think, because that is running some.
I tell you what I can do. If nothing happens, I can tell you the line before that, and that might help.
All right. So my other thing, I was going to say General Gogol for some reason, just the way somewhat in the performance, I was going to say Gogol, but I'm guessing that's wrong too.
The performance is shit. I'm so sorry, but yes, that is
wrong. Warn me. I see it does ring a vague bell, but I'm really struggling to find.
You probably just did a better impression then.
Yeah, I'm struggling. Okay, give us a clue then, because I'm stuck.
Okay, so I'll give you the line beforehand.
Okay.
Okay. I came here to warn you. If I say that and then you say the line afterwards and see if that works. Okay, you ready? I came here to warn you.
Warn me? See, I know it's ringing a bell right in the deepest, darkest parts of my brain. Is it Thunderball?
I tell you what, if I say that, no, it's not. I'm going to say one line and it's going to tell you what it is. Okay, this is 2 lines that precede the quote. Okay,
can we just do the whole film?
This is. Why have you disobeyed my strictest rule and come in daylight? I came here to warn you.
Oh, of course. Yes, I have it now. It's Dr. No, isn't it?
Yeah, nice one.
Of course it is. Yeah.
Good
Damn
stuff.
It.
Sorry, that was a really bad sort of impression.
Well, I'm going to blame the fact that I didn't get it on your performance, Chris. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm just
performance jet lag. There's a load of.
There's a lot of excuses for me there. I like it. Okay, so I've got a quote for you this week. Are you ready for it?
Yeah. Go on. Go on.
Okay, here we go. Let me see if I can get the tone of voice right. That would be perfectly satisfactory. No, that was shit. No, that was the words that were right, but my performance lacked something. All right, let me try it again.
Okay.
That would be perfectly satisfactory.
Okay, that's ringing some bells. I think the second delivery had more to it. Can we hear it one more time?
Okay. That would be perfectly satisfactory. I'm not quite capturing it, Chris. I'm going to leave it there because I'll be sitting there for half an hour otherwise.
No worries.
But that
was like me on my one.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Does that ring any bells for you?
There's definitely something there, but I haven't got it straight away. I definitely haven't got it straight away. I'll have to think.
Right.
That would be complete. What is it? That would be completely satisfactory.
That would be perfectly. Sorry. Get into the rhythm, Tommy. Come on, here we go. Right, here we go. Final performance. Right, psych yourself up. Here we go. Get into the role. Get into the mood. That would be perfectly satisfactory.
Okay.
All right.
That's ringing some bells, but I'll have to have a good think about that one. Good quote though. Good quote. I like it.
Thank you very much.
Nice.
Now we also have a listener quote this week,
Ooh,
which is hopefully going to ring some bells. This one comes in from Thomas Heasley. So let's listen to what Thomas has for us.
Hi guys, it's Thomas Heasley here in Belfast. Just here giving you another teaser and see if you can get this. Guess the quote. So the quote is Fendo Ben. Fendo Ben. That's it, and I will send you another voicemail with the answer. Good luck.
All right. Did that ring any bells for you, Chris?
I think it does. I think it does. I've got an idea. I think I got the film. I'm pretty sure. I'm quietly reasonably confident.
See, I'm quietly confident as well. I think I've got who says it, but I can't remember what film that is said in. So, yeah.
I tell you what, you tell me yours, I'll tell you mine, and don't tell the listeners,
all right.
and then we'll,
all right.
we'll know it for
Jobs
next week.
Good.
Yeah?
Sounds good. All right, wicked.
Just keep it.
Nicely done. So, thank you for that one, then, Thomas. Good stuff. We will obviously reveal the answer to my quote and Thomas's quote in the next episode in 2 weeks' time. So, good stuff. So, next up, it's time for.
Who wrote the score for Live and Let Die? Who played Helga Brandt? How did she die? Who wants to stockpile the water in the Nivea? It's Tommy Trivia.
Okay. Are you ready, Tom? Are you ready for Tommy Trivia this week?
I am all set. I've got my guns ready to blaze. I'm ready to knock it out of the park this week.
Okay, here we go. Now, should I give you a choice of where you want to start, or should we follow on from where you were last time and then start with the next one?
What do you think? I think go with what makes you feel good, Chris. Like just go with your gut feeling, whatever. Use the force and all that.
Okay, that sounds good. In which case, we're going to go with. I'll tell you what. I'll just go straight into the questions. Okay.
All right.
What role does Jill St. John play?
Gee, let me think. That would be Tiffany Case.
Yeah, boom, boom. So, point number one.
Good stuff.
Question number two. Octopussy Circus is a cover for smuggling what into the West?
Octopussy Circus is a cover for smuggling what into the West? Is this something that my gut reaction says gold? Is that right?
It's not really right, but kind of right, but not really right. You're on the right sort of lines.
Damn it! I was about to poo-poo
You haven't
these
seen
questions.
Octopussy for a long time,
Too
have you?
easy. Oh no! Hold on. Sorry. Do you know what? In my mind, I had Pussy Galore's Flying Circus. What a dickhead! Right. Ask me. This is one of those things where I just don't fucking listen to the question. Right. Start again.
Okay, I'll say it again.
Question again. Let's do it.
Octopussy's Circus is a cover for smuggling what into the West? So not Pussy Galore Circus, is Octopussy Circus.
Octopussy Circus
is a cover
yes.
for smuggling what into the West?
See, I immediately went to Pussy Galore's Flying Circus and thought Goldfinger. That wasn't right. Now, again, Octopussy is a film I haven't watched in a while because of this podcast. So what does she smuggle? Is it like diamonds or something? I don't know.
Again, you're pretty much there. Yeah, I'll kind of give that to you. It's Soviet treasures, so it's basically gems and diamonds, and it's basically Soviet.
Well, I tell you what,
jewelry and treasure.
Don't give it to me because I don't think I gave a detailed enough answer. It was a half guess, so Soviet treasures is a very definite answer. So I lost on that one. I was about to get all high and mighty and be like, "Oh, these questions are so easy," and then I've got stumped on the second one. Bollocks.
The Romanov star would have been a good one. Okay, so question 3. This will get you back in the game. What happens to Honey Rider's boat?
What happens to Honey Rider's boat? It gets... there's a hole in the bottom of it. Isn't there?
What do you mean?
Isn't there a bit where they?
How does it get there?
Where they? I remember they pull back the branches and there's a hole in it. So somebody puts a hole in the boat, like they kick it or something. I don't know. How does it happen? Do you see it happen?
You know when they're on the beach. Do you remember?
Oh, is it the machine gun boat?
Ah, there we go. Yeah.
Okay,
so
that
Dr.
makes sense.
Nose guy comes on the boat
Yeah.
and he machine guns. There's a hole in the bottom.
There it is.
This is a hard week for
with
Tommy Trivia.
I'm going to blame jet lag.
Yep. Okay, but this one you're back in the game for definite.
All right.
Now, what watch does Bond wear in Quantum of Solace?
What watch does Bond wear in Quantum of Solace? An Omega Seamaster.
He does indeed. Excellent stuff. Nice one. Just 2 questions to go. This could be an interesting one. What country is Q's field lab in Moonraker?
What country is Q's field lab in Moonraker? That's going to be Brazil?
Yes, good man. Oh, yeah, that was
Sweet.
good.
I pulled myself back there at the
no
end there.
hesitation.
See, what's scary about these trivia questions on the fly like this is it reveals my terribly low IQ and way of skills at listening. But there you go.
Yeah, listening. I'd go with you on the listening. The IQ, no. The listening, I'd definitely go with you on that. Okay, last one to round it off. Nice and easy one. Who was the editor who went on to direct 5 later Bond films?
The editor who later went on to direct 5 Bond films, that would be the legend that is John Glenn.
It would indeed. Superb, Mr. Bond. Superb. Excellent stuff. That is Tommy Trivia for this week.
Good stuff. So next up, it's time to listen to another one of Dan Gale's fantastic jingles. It's time for...
It's the music
Alright, so we have Guess the Music Cue for this week. Now, I played one obviously last week, and I think you definitely had the right idea. As to the scene, it might be a bit tricky, but should we have a listen to last week's one again?
Let's do it.
So there we go. What do you think of that one? Did that ring any bells? Any ideas?
Certainly did. I'm confident I've got the film. I'm confident I've got the scene, but I'm not 100% that I've got the scene. So
let's hear the film first then.
So that would be Thunderball.
Yes, good man.
Which just goes to show, man, how instantly recognisable those John Barry scores are, aren't they? As soon as you hear one of them, like you especially the early ones, like you know what film it's from. So I think, is that the scene? I think it could be one of two, to be honest with you. I think, is it the scene where Largo cuts the air pipe underwater?
It's not that one.
Is it the scene? Is it when Bond is scuba diving around underneath the Disco Volante and they're dropping the grenades?
No, it's not actually. No, it's not. It's not quite. That one is a bit heavier handed than this one. This one is when Bond and Leiter are in the helicopter searching for the Disco Volante. When they're out in the and it's called "Searching for the Vulcan," I think.
For Searching
and that's
for the
just a
Vulcan.
little snippet from it. But Thunderball track does sound very similar in a lot of places throughout the film. So it's instantly recognisable as the Thunderball soundtrack, but in terms of the cues within it, certain parts are okay, but certain parts kind of blend a little bit. So that was quite a tricky one, really.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you got the film.
Do you know what? I wouldn't have got that. That was not one of the scenes that came to mind when I heard that piece. So all right, nicely done. All right then. So have you got a new one for us this week?
Yep, we have. Now this one. Again, you know what? I think this one you're going to have a really good idea of the film. I think it's quite recognisable, but in terms of the scene, again, I'm not sure. So yeah, same for everyone listening. We'll play the new one for this week and see what you think. All right, that was the new guest music cue for this podcast. And what are your thoughts, Mr. Thompson?
I'm quietly confident with that one. It brought a smile to my face as soon as I heard it. I think nice. I definitely know the film, and I think I know the scene as well. Yeah, it's a
I
good
like
one.
it.
It's a belter. I like it.
This is like confidence personified right there.
Yeah,
It's
unlike
good.
my Tommy Trivia performances, which are anything but confidence personified. But there we go. Now we do have some plans in the rumblings for the return of James Bond Celebrity Deathmatch with a sort of a new twist and a new angle. All top secret for the moment, of course, but it will be back very soon with a new tournament to kind of kick things off. But you came up with a good idea, didn't you? To kind of like just to do, like with footballists, they do a friendly every now and then, don't they? They have a big tournament or a league or whatever you call it. I'm not a football person, you've probably guessed. But they do a little game where they're like, let's just have a kickabout. And you had a good idea that we could do a Bond Celebrity Deathmatch kickabout, didn't you?
I did indeed. Now, with this, what I thought was basically there's quite a few characters within the Bond series who are kind of quite similar to each other. They're kind of the sort of archetype for it was Red Grant, but there was quite a few that followed that. Obviously, we saw For Your Eyes Only, and it had Eric Kriegler. There was Hans in You Only Live Twice, Stamper in Tomorrow Never Dies, obviously Necros in Living Daylights. And I think they were the main ones. So what I thought was, I mean, there were a couple in. People like Mitchell or Edmund Slate in Quantum don't really, they don't feel right. So we'll stick with those. So what I thought was, we'd have a one-off James Bond Celebrity Deathmatch with all the sort of Grant-alikes in one ring or whatever. Obviously, they've got their weaponry. I think Eric Kriegler, I don't know if he's allowed his sniper rifle because that would kind of put slightly advantage towards him. But so here we go. They're all together, all five of them. Who do you think will come out on top and say what order do you think they'd be killed off, perhaps? So we've got, so I'll list them again. So we've got Red Grant, we've got Hans, we've got Eric Kriegler, Necros, and Stamper.
Right. Now, so they're all in. So it's like a Royal Rumble style, free for all. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's take each character one by one, and we'll talk about their skills and what they bring to the table. So kicking off with Red Grant, we have got somebody who is comfortable with disguises. He's very strong. He has an excellent physique. He's good with a garrote wire. He can certainly handle himself in a fight, for sure, in close quarters. So that definitely, adds to his favour.
He's a trained killer. Homicidal paranoia.
Absolutely. And when he was a kid, he used to go out murdering kittens and stuff, didn't he? So he's a proper lunatic. So it'll be hard to sort of, get one up on a proper lunatic in a fight situation. Next up, what have we got with Hans? Not a lot, let's be honest.
I would agree. Yeah, he's got a bit of size to him, isn't he? He's quite tall.
What does Hans even do?
he feeds stuff to the piranhas. He's he has a little battle with Bond, doesn't he, by Blofeld's fireplace and stuff like that. And Bond sort of hits him in the stomach, and like all the others, they've all got sort of washboard stomachs and stuff like that. And he's a biggish chap, but he doesn't. You're right. He doesn't do a huge amount, does he?
Do you think, just on this thread, do you think we should do like the opposite end of the spectrum, where we take all the weedy characters, like the Vargases of the world, and then make them fight each other? That could be quite interesting as well.
That might be next podcast.
Sounds
Maybe
good.
Good idea.
Cool. So Hans, he's a bit buff, basically. That's what plays in his angle. And okay, so Eric Kriegler, now we've got a bit more grit coming with Eric. So he's a very skilled sportsman, which I imagine would mean his athleticism is tip top. So he's got a lot of stamina, a lot of staying power, I would say. He's an expert rifle shot, so expert marksman, very good at that. He can shoot, if your gun is beside you down next to a tree, he can shoot it away very easily. He's that skilled with his gun.
A ski pole as
well. He can shoot a ski pole, so he's a very, very good shot. Obviously, he's good at skiing, and he's burly, so he can handle himself in a fight as well. So that's all right. Necros, now, this just crossed my mind that Necros has got a bit of Red Grant in him because he likes to strangle people with his headphones. So that's like the 80s equivalent the Walkman equivalent of your garrote wire. So let's look at Nikos. What have we got?
He's also into disguises.
He is.
Like, he can disguise himself all the time. He can speak lots of different sort of accents.
Yeah.
You know, he can do American, he can do British, and everything like that. Again, physique. You know, he's right up there. He likes his swimming, doesn't he?
He does.
He obviously works out now and again.
He wears the Budgie Smugglers quite well, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. And he's a trained assassin as well, isn't he? So he's got no worries about like killing someone. He was going to shoot Pushkin. Obviously, Bond beat him to it, so to speak. But and you know, he likes to wear boots with lots of laces.
And let's not forget his most iconic tool, which is the exploding milk bottles.
Yeah. I mean, if that comes into the party, then I mean,
that's going to be ripe for some devastation. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. So he's got a lot going for him, I'd say.
He certainly does. Good stuff. And obviously he can proper handle himself in a fight whilst hanging out at the back of an aeroplane. And the kitchen fight, obviously. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. So Nikos is a strong contender. And then finally we have Stamper, quick shouting in my ear, yeah. Yes, we have Stamper. Now, Stamper was originally going to have the thing that Renard ended up having, which was the ability to not feel pain. But that wasn't really sort of explored in the film, so I think we have to ignore that side of things, I suppose. He has different coloured eyeballs.
Like Mila Kunis.
Yes, and David Bowie. I'm not sure how that's an advantage, but maybe. What does he do? He sort of he mentions, doesn't he, that he was trained in the chakra torture techniques by Dr. Kaufman, doesn't he?
So he's got his chakra torture sort of instruments, although we never really see him use them. But when he's kept a victim alive for 50 hours or whatever it was, something like that. So he can use those implements, but I really wish we'd seen it in that film because, for he could be making it up. I don't know. Yeah. He's decent at handling himself in a fight. He can fire a machine gun. All right. There's that rocket that lands on his foot, and he basically, he doesn't sort of scream, sort of thing. So he's a bit tough. Overall, though, I don't think he's the cleverest. He gets quite easily outwitted by Brosnan, but I don't know.
Yeah, Stamper is... Yeah, okay, so let's just recap then what we've got so far. Okay. We've got the 5 combatants. Red Grant, pretty solid. Hans, not very solid. Eric Kriegler, pretty solid and skilled in various things. Nikos, very solid and skilled in various things. And the exploding milk bottles. Stamper, a bit sort of run-of-the-mill.
Yeah.
So I would say, let's kick off the fight then. Let's kick off the Royal Rumble, Chris. Who's the first to fall?
I mean, for me, it's got to be Hans. I think literally any of the other 4 could take him out. He might get him with a punch, or he might try and swing a punch and they would duck and then just chuck him over. Red Grant could strangle him. Cross could strangle him. Eric Kriegler could shoot him. I don't know. I just.
I mean, at the end of the day, he has a propensity to fall off bridges into piranha-filled lakes. So I feel like basically somebody's just going to... I tell you what's going to happen. Stamper is going to pick him up and just chuck him out of the ring, and that's it. Game over for Hans.
Okay, sounds
so
good.
That's it. So Hans is gone. So we've now got Red Grant, Kriegler, and Nikos and Stamper left. Now, I feel like the next one to go has got to be Stamper.
I agree. I think probably what he'd do is he'd get chakra torture things. He'd try and chuck a couple at them, and the others are pretty sort of...
He'd be standing there explaining the fact that he's good. It's like people who go to CrossFit. They'll stand there talking about it all fucking day and not actually do it. So he's going to be standing there all day talking about his chakra techniques, by which point Red Grant comes up behind him and strangles him with the garrote wire. Game over for Stamper. Yeah, absolutely.
He's a gunner.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're down to Grant,
3.
Kriegler, and Nikos. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Who do you think's the next one to fall?
I really don't know. It depends on... Okay, I think if you're taking away... If we're doing like a ring style or whatever, and we're taking away Kriegler's sort of rifle, because that's a bit, you can't really have that. my money would probably be on him because
I don't think you have to take Kriegler's rifle away because that is a key
No?
part of his
Okay.
skill set. So he's got his rifle,
Okay.
I think.
Right. Okay. So it depends on the setting then. In that case,
Yeah.
obviously he's not in a big wrestling ring because he could just shoot more.
Mm.
So it'd be within the Bond location setting. So if he was sort of, I don't know. What do you think?
Do you know what? I have a thought about that because the rifle he uses is not like a machine gun, is it? It's like bang,
No.
and then he's got to do the and he's reloading
Yeah.
for a good couple of seconds, isn't he, before he
Yeah.
can shoot again? So I don't think it's that much of an advantage.
No.
He could possibly take one person down before somebody else rugby tackles him, you know?
But the thing is, if he's got that, Necros has got to have the milk bottles, and he'd just like blow everyone else up, wouldn't he?
That is true. But maybe the milk bottles are negated by Kriegler shooting them out of the air as he throws them.
Interesting.
So,
and don't forget, Grant's handy because he's got that pistol and he saves Bond's life at the gypsy camp. So he's an expert
that's
shot
true.
as well.
Right. Okay, we've just made
This
this
is
a lot harder
difficult.
for ourselves.
This is really
Right.
difficult.
Okay. So I feel like, as a test of strength, the next person to fall, like purely strength, Kriegler can pick up a motorbike. He's pretty tough.
Yeah. And a heavy concrete pot.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Now, Grant, while we don't see that sort of display of strength, he is a mental. He is a proper lunatic.
Yeah.
So he's got lunatic strength. So I imagine.
And we see he's got the weight training as well
He
and all
does.
that in Spectre Island.
Yes.
And I think the lunacy is definitely more. He's nuttier than the other two.
Yeah, he's
I think.
definitely nuttier. So I
Definitely.
think he's not going to lift something up and think, "Oh, that's heavy." He's just going to be like, "Rah," you know, and do it.
Yeah.
Necros, I feel like, I mean, that dude is probably the most ripped of all three. So I think he's definitely strong. He's definitely tough. I feel like if because basically all of these tools that they have, the milk bottles, the guns and stuff,
Yeah.
they kind of cross each other out. I think this has to be a test of physical fighting abilities. So I feel. Who do you think the next person to fall for you is?
If it's just based on fist fights and
Fisticuffs.
no weapons, so no watch garrote wire, no Walkman wire.
No, we're just gonna
no.
because they're all
purely
evenly
on
matched
strength
that
and
sense.
fighting.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that Grant is a trained assassin, and although he kind of gets bested by Bond, obviously in the train fight, he's a solid fighter. Kriegler, in his battle with Bond, it's the sort of thing where he'll hold him, Bond will hit his chest, and he'll kind of, not really do much.
Yeah.
So although he's buff, I don't know if his fighting technique would be up to match with Necros or Grant.
Do you know what? So if we look at the ability in close quarters, which let's face it, if they're in a ring, it is close quarters. We've seen Red Grant in a train fight, and of course he does lose that, but only just, man. That's a frantic fight, and we've seen Necros in the kitchen, which is a frantic fight, and he dominates in that. So I think let's look at Kriegler's fighting ability, which is let me pick up this big heavy pot plant and stand here.
That's what he'd do. He'd show off his strength, and the other two would just be like, "Right, come on."
So I think that's
You're
what
out of here,
happens.
mate.
Kriegler tries to pick up a heavy potted plant, and then Grant just pushes him out the ring, and that's game over for Kriegler.
Cool.
All right,
Okay,
cool.
I'm more than happy with that. Now these two,
This is almost
really hard.
almost like the matchup between Jaws and Oddjob, isn't it? I'm just not sure where this one goes. So let's think about this then. So Grant has his garrote wire. They're both equally matched in close quarters, I would say. That kitchen fight versus the train fight, I would say evenly matched. Necros, he's good, hanging out the back of a plane and conducting a fight. Grant, let's see what we see with Grant. So, Master of Disguise, he fools Bond by taking on Captain Nash's identity. He puts the stuff in the drink. What else does he do? He
kills more people than pretty much anyone else in terms of. All right, let's think who he kills. So he kills the Bond sort of Spectre agent at the start. He kills the Russian that's in the car. He kills the other Russian guy at the mosque. He kills the guy at the gypsy camp. He kills Karen Bay and the other guy on the train. And I'm sure he kills a couple more as well. He like, this guy is a killing machine, basically, Grant.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
So on the other side of that coin, then Nikros, he also kills a lot of people. During the milk bottle sequence, he chucks a lot of his milk bottles. A lot of people are going to die from that.
Yeah.
Obviously, the headphone strangling sequence. What else do we have? We have obviously the kitchen fight sequence. He's handy with a saucepan.
He kills Saunders, doesn't he? With that,
he kills Saunders, yes,
thing.
with the balloons. I'm struggling with this one, man. I think this might have to go out to the JBR family again.
You know what? I think it does. And also, they both, obviously, they all kind of, well, a lot of them were working for Mother Russia, but the whole spionum and stuff is a bit what Grant was doing as well, wasn't he? Kind of within
before
that,
Nikros was in diapers, as the Americans would say. Yeah. Okay. Let's throw it out, I reckon.
Okay, let's do that. I always thought to myself, I'd want Grant to win just because I think he's killed the most and all that. But Nikros, that kitchen fight is solid. But
that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking. Sorry to interrupt. Don't forget what you're about to say. But that's how I'm thinking. I want Red Grant to win because he's more of a classic character. He was there right at the beginning. But I don't know when you actually match them up together who comes out on top of that realistically.
Now, another way to look at it is the kitchen fight with Nikros. It's solid, okay. And what I love about it is the guy Green 4 the base. You know, the Green 4 guy. He's not a Muppet. You know, in a lot of Bond films, you'll get someone and they'll just be like shit, won't they? They won't know their ass from their elbow. This guy can fight. You know, he's obviously trained. He's a security guard at a safe house, so he knows his stuff. But is he at the same level that Bond is?
That is a good
point. I don't think he would be. So Grant's matchup against him compared to Grant's against Bond, I think is unfair on Grant because I think although the guy can handle himself, I don't think he'd be anywhere near the level of trying to fight someone like Bond is. So I think that's something to consider. I think
you're.
But I definitely
right.
agree. We should put it out to the audience. I think I know who I would potentially go to, but it is so tight. I think we'll put it out. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll set up same as with the last one. I'll set up a vote system. I'll stick it on a website, stick it on Facebook page, and then let the listeners decide.
Let the games begin. Yes, so I suppose the way to look at it is let's really try and look at this as physically who would win in this fight. Like, let's forget that Red Grant is the classic character and Nikros is as cool as he is. It doesn't rank in that pantheon of Bond sort of henchmen, does he? Do you know what I mean? So let's try and forget that and just pitch them character versus character and see who comes out on top. Yeah.
Because also, they're both good at sort of disguises and trying to sort of outwit other people, which is good. But that lunacy side of Grant's is a potential factor, isn't it? But there we go. We'll put it out there and we'll see what people think.
Absolutely, good stuff. All right then. So that about rounds out today's episode of James Bond Radio. It's been fun. That's the For Your Eyes Only era knocked on the head and done and dusted and wrapped up nicely with a dicky bow on the end of it.
You know what's coming soon, don't you?
What's coming soon, Chris?
What's our next movie review?
It's A View to a Kill, isn't it? After For Your Eyes Only. Yes, it's your favourite Roger film, isn't it? Coming up next.
Well, it was, and I'm sure it still will be. But it's been a long time, and obviously it's been a long time for you as well. So it'd be really interesting. I mean, I know we've got quite a few podcasts before we get to it, but I'm getting excited. I want to see if it's as good as I kind of remember it is.
Absolutely. It is interesting, isn't it? Because it's like the flip side of the coin, isn't it? For me, I loved For Your Eyes Only as a kid, forgot about it as an adult, and have rediscovered it. So for you, this is like the opposite of that, which is well, it's almost the same, but it's like this is like your favourite Roger film, a movie you've loved and you reference it all the time when we've been talking through the podcast. So for you to like rediscover that with fresh eyes, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe
what if I watch
maybe
it and
you
I
don't
don't like it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man,
yeah.
If I think it's an absolute stinker, I'll be really upset.
Yeah.
I really will, but I don't think that'll happen.
Absolutely.
But anyway, that's a few podcasts away. We got a few nice ones lined up, haven't we?
certainly do.
In terms of next week, we're not going to say what we're doing now, are we?
Well, obviously, we'll be returning in 2 weeks. So the next
in 2 weeks. Sorry, yeah.
So our next episode is going to be a mystery one, but all we're going to say is this: it has already been recorded, and it is with somebody who has what could realistically be considered an unbeatable credit in the history of filmmaking. Like, it is unbelievable the films this person has worked on. So that's going to be our next episode in 2 weeks' time. So until next time, it will remain a mystery. Maybe we'll throw out a few clues in the lead up to the next episode. But it's going to be a classic one. I mean, this interview, obviously we've already got it in the bag, is a brilliant one, and I thoroughly enjoyed doing it. So I think the JBL family are going to thoroughly enjoy it too. So until then, I've been Tom Sears.
And I've been Chris Wright.
And James Bond Radio will return in 2 weeks' time with a mystery interview. We'll see you then.
Ooh. See you then, everyone.
Bye.